Bob.
Hey guys, welcome to the ClevelandMoto podcast number 449. Light 'em up. All right, this is the Christmas spirit. Yay! We are so. When you listen to this, it'll all be over. But for us, this is the Saturday before the Christmas holiday. So everybody here is got fully inflicted or infested with the Christmas spirit.
Infested.
As it might be.
Infested.
Yep. And that's and I got bourbon with some, thanks to Tom, I got Mr. Black in my bourbon.
Merry Christmas.
Coffee.
You just made Mr. Tinkley glass.
I did. Remember
Tinkley glass.
I dropped that on your third page the other day with the beat behind him.
It's so good, man. It's so good. I do love those moto stories with the little accompaniment of the rocks glass.
Yeah.
Little rocks glass
For
accompaniment.
some reason, when you do it, it's always in rhythm. It's like,
Well, I do have a natural shake.
yeah.
You might call it a twitch.
Do fries come with that shit?
Yes, they do. Especially in a nice heavy piece of stemware like this.
Yeah,
You could kill a guy with this thing. That's a very nice rocks glass, a double rocks glass of the gods. To my immediate left is
Dan Krupke.
to his
Steve Sleepy.
and to his left,
John Cheesy Mac.
while we have him, because he already told us he's sleepy.
I'm warning you.
He's
Yeah.
sleepy tonight.
Yep. And to his left,
Chris Smith.
and our bartender,
Tom Pennington.
and your humble narrator, Phil Waters. We have got tonight. There's some weird stuff happening. I think the motorcycle news people held back until it was the holiday weekend and they knew nobody could do anything about it anyway to release certain information or certain stories and things like that. But the motorcycle news is a little bonkers. So the first thing I have to talk about, because this is, again, every once in a while we get vindicated. And 2 years ago, we talked about this mysterious Chinese replica of a Sportster 1200 motor, where we sat and we looked at it in great detail. And we said, that is clearly a Sportster 1200 motor. And a Chinese company that wasn't named yet was apparently going to produce it. And we went, well, that's fucking suspicious. Especially since Harley Davidson had just announced, we're not going to be making Sportsters anymore, boys. We're going to be going to a whole new motor design that's going to be EPA friendly and noise compliant and liquid cooled and all these things that might happen. And then magically, as if on cue, SWM Motorcycles, which is a company that was Italian that was then purchased by the Chinese.
Not to be confused with SYM.
That's correct. Yeah, excellent. Not Sanyang Motors, but SWM Motors, in fact, said, hey, we are going to be producing, and not might be producing, but we are producing our 1200. And it's up on their website for all to see.
So Long Motors.
Oh, and I'm going to say it is so suspicious.
It's so long.
It's, oh, God. If you were to tell me that you were going to have this plan, even if you had shaken hands with Harley Davidson and said, Harley Davidson, we know you're not going to produce the 1200 Sportster anymore. And we agree that we're going to buy your tooling and your intellectual property, and we're going to build it in China. It could not have happened so quickly to ship the equipment over to China and retro engineer it so it'd be Euro 5 compliant and do all the things that you'd have to do to produce it and build it and train people to get a producible item in less than 2 years. Which makes me think it was already happening.
Really?
I gotta believe, unless you're a complete fucking idiot,
You're so
No way,
suspicious.
you have to be
No way.
believing that it was already happening.
In the works.
And that's why for several years now, Sleepy and myself and other people have said, it's kind of weird that we've never seen a picture of a Harley Davidson 883 motor or a 1200cc motor in a factory in York, Pennsylvania. The bikes supposedly roll out of there. They had a big celebration in November of 2022 when York said this is the last Sportster 1200 that's going to roll off of our York, Pennsylvania assembly line. But November of 2022 to and today is about a year and a month or so different. And in a year and a month, I don't think you could move all that equipment, those presses and those machines that were supposedly producing a viable motorcycle not 14 months ago, move them all to China and produce a viable motorcycle right now today.
Well, even if they could, so like say like you were a company that planned this out, they'd
Right.
still have planned it. Because if they had like all the footing and all the stuff set up and it was literally unbolting the machine, slapping it in and then taking them over.
Yeah.
But either way, your point's proven.
I think Phil's sort of implying that they've been doing this for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, didn't they some years ago start building the Sportster specifically for the Indian market too?
They did.
And so
They did.
and logically, every company right now is pulling out of China and moving into India. So this is kind of...
This is one of those ones, and just for the fun of the people at home and things like that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the SWM website because it is important that you see it with your own goddamn peepers because it is not a bike that is inspired by a Harley-Davidson Sportster 1200. Nope, not at all. It is a fucking Harley-Davidson 1200. There is absolutely no doubt about it.
They would never clone a motorcycle.
It is called the Stormbreaker 1200.
China's never cloned anything.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my God, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that down for our podcast viewers at home, just so they can see it too, because it is kind of special.
So you got a dragon instead of an eagle.
It's got an emu. It's like what's an English?
Or a turtle. Better yet, a turtle.
Oh my!
What's a Chinese bird? Like what's a famous Chinese bird?
A dragon.
I don't know. I mean, dragon.
I mean, I was
John's
gonna say,
sticking with the dragon.
I was going to say crane or something of that
Right, a
nature. but
crane?
Dragon
A
makes
crane's
more
a good
sense.
idea. Right,
Like
a crane.
Pheasant?
Yeah. What about
screaming-
peacock? Aren't peacocks from there?
You can buy the screaming crane. Mufflers for it.
Yeah. Right. Or you could do some sort of a phoenix. Right. Right.
Fire-breathing
I mean-
dragon, though,
Right.
just lends itself way
Yeah,
better.
no, I think I'm with John on this one. It needs a dragon down the side of it because most Harley Sportsters have dragons already.
Sure.
on them.
Why not? Why not?
And they already have flames coming out of the exhausts.
Give or take $9,999 based on the price they've already launched for the European market. Now, this isn't vapor fucking wear, by the way. This is what I'm showing you guys is the Italian website. So this is the Italian website. This is ready to go. It's not an artist's rendering. This is a bike that they've got accessories listed for. They've got reviews listed for it. Air-cooled 5-speed, Euro 5 compliant. And to make this motorcycle Euro 5 compliant, if they didn't already have it Euro 5 compliant 14 months ago, when they only showed us a picture of the motor, I would tell you that it is very unlikely that they would have retrofitted it to become Euro 5 compliant in only the 14 months that have been since the York factory supposedly quit producing it and they moved all the tooling over to China. I just don't think that's possible. Now, one of the pieces of crap that's on the SWM website is that they're saying that it was designed in their Italian headquarters.
Hey, Aramaki could have had a hand in this 60 years ago.
If you can't call that as being designed in your Italian fucking headquarters when it is exactly a Sportster 1200.
That looks like
If the original,
exactly.
if the original Harley-Davidson Sportster was Euro 5 compliant, why wouldn't this be also? Because it's the same bike.
Exactly. That's my point.
It looks exactly like an SS350. That is that's an Aramaki right there.
Oh yeah. This is. I mean, I assure you, I do not think there's one molecule of Aramaki DNA in this thing, even when Aramaki was Aramaki.
If anybody's pulled the sticker off, like see the little silver guy on the bottom
Yeah.
of the transmission?
Yeah.
Pull that sticker. What's underneath that thing?
Where did they find all of the skull chrome pieces to put on their
So,
accessories board?
if we could, and if we might, this is one of those things where we told you.
Yeah.
We told you. We told you, and we even said, I kind of believe that the Sportster has been built in China for the past several goddamn years. And I believed that. I believe that in my heart and soul. And I also never had anybody ever told me, fuck you, man, I work at the York plant. I build those 883 motors all day long. I build those 1200 motors all day long.
our lawyers say this is speculation.
Right.
This is our opinion
Yeah,
only. We have
correct.
no proof to
Right.
back it up.
And if you have proof otherwise, please provide it to us. We would like to see it.
Well, that's absolutely true. So if your brother works at the York plant
Yeah.
and has a belt buckle that says he produced 10,000 1200 cc motors or a gold watch
Yep.
to the effect,
Yep.
that's enough.
And I'd like to know exactly how they read the character writing on the wiring harnesses to make sure that they go into the right spots. Because honestly, I looked at it 17 times and I couldn't figure it out.
Well, I'm going to raise my hand and tell you I have been in the Piaggio factory that claims to build a lot of Vespas. Put on the booties, put on the safety gear, and Renee and I took a tour of that fucking thing for hours. And we saw Vespas being painted.
Yep.
We saw Vespa forks being assembled. We saw a lot of scooters going from what appeared to be life-size Revell model kits. But we never saw a piston being put in a barrel.
They get 10 bikes, they tear them all apart and stretch them out over the line, and they have this line just set up so it looks like...
What I'm thinking is happening is a mega shit ton of containers roll up on trains or trucks from the dock off a boat that came from China, and inside that container are stringers upon stringers upon stringers of engines that are already built, and they're on a sprue. And they take them out of the container, and they are ready to go. And that's the racking system is part of the deal, because I've seen American car companies do the exact same thing.
Keep the container.
The container fucks back off again. You just take it.
That's what they've already proven. It
Right.
doesn't. That's why we're getting so many containers here, is because it's not worth $1,200, $2,000 to even send them back.
We don't export enough back to China to justify shipping a container back.
Well, the factory that I saw was putting completely built motors into frames. We never saw anything at a component level before the motor was a motor, right? The motors were motors.
There was no motor shop.
Now,
There was no machine shop.
Now, here's something-
There would have had to been a machine shop. There
Yeah.
would have had to been a casting.
Yeah.
There would have had to been all kinds of stuff.
yeah, and I've been in those factories before.
There have been flames and
They
sparks.
smell a certain way. They sound a certain way, right? You can smell them. You can hear them. You know they're there. When you go from the Ford Motor Company factory, even with their aluminum motors plant, which is their clean plant, it's still filthy in there. It's still building motors. You're punching out cylinders. You're boring. You're machining. You are doing messy, dirty, noisy work. And here's what I can tell you about that Vespa plant. No part of that Vespa plant had the sort of smokestack coverage that I would expect to see in an engine fabrication plant. And I'm going to guesstimate that this bike is made in China because SWM is a Chinese company. I'm going to guesstimate that the Sportsters that have been purchased since this motor wasn't the most current model motor, when Harley Davidson was more into building twin cam 88s or whatever, or Milwaukee 8s or whatever, the tooling for this fucked off to China many years ago. And that every fucking Sportster that you've bought in the past, I don't know, I'm going to say 10 years, maybe more, has been made in America. And by made in America, I mean kit assembled in America.
So given a 60-month note, your past two Sportsters have been made in China.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Perhaps.
it would have to be like just part. Like, dude, can you imagine? Like, if they had anything almost assembled from China coming in and people saw that, that would have broke. Like, somebody would have said something somewhere.
Well,
I think when
It would
Harley
have to just be parts.
when
and
Harley
boxes, right?
restructured
Like,
when Harley restructured a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
they got rid of Buell,
Yeah.
and they shut down the plant not in Milwaukee. But what was the other one up in the that area?
I do not know.
There were two plants.
Yeah.
They shut one of them down. I think that's when everything went to China,
Well,
because that was when the deal was struck with the Indian market. Was Harley had to keep the shareholders happy, which is Harley's biggest problem. Is you have to keep the money happy. And when they did, they fucked everything off to China and into India, because those are the only expanding markets in the world right now. It makes sense.
I watched a guy at a factory in Italy when we were watching Moto Guzzi's being built. And I watched a guy, I asked him, I said, hey, I've read all about these Moto Guzzi engines, and I've read about how there's 20 guys or something that build every Moto Guzzi engine, and there's a Moto Guzzi engine shop. And he motioned with his hands. He goes, well, that's in our other factory. I think his hand motion was perhaps inferring a much greater different distance than I was initially assessing. Because
It's not at Lake Como.
I don't think it is.
East of Lake
It
Como.
might be
Lake Como.
way east of Lake Como. But now for our podcast listeners, for the folks at home, SWM. SWM. I did not know this. I should have known this. But SWM is owned by Shine Ray. We've heard that word before, guys.
Yeah.
What other motorcycle do we have in the shop that's made by Shine Ray? Well, it's the G400C.
Right.
Shine Ray has, in documentation I was able to find pretty easily, Google searching, Shine Ray has publicly told press agencies and things like that that they are a licensed manufacturer for Honda and for Suzuki. What's to say they're not a licensed manufacturer for Harley Davidson? And here's another thing. If you are a Honda person, you know that the word Showa is a suspension word for Honda. That Honda invented Showa. That Showa was Honda. Like everybody's like, oh, I got Showa suspension on my Honda. Well, no shit. That's Honda, right? You didn't usually back then have Showa suspension on your Suzuki, at least not from the factory, because Honda couldn't get what they wanted from suspension manufacturers, so they started building their own. They named their company Showa. Here's a weird thing. Harley Davidsons have had Showa suspension now for quite a while.
Yep.
And I always thought that was a weird bit of cross-pollination, that Harley Davidson would be proudly wearing Honda suspension. And I always thought that was fucking weird, that Harley Davidson was wearing Showa suspension.
How many dudes that own Harleys do you think actually know that though?
Well, guess what? My Road King has Showa suspension.
No, I
on
know,
it.
but you would know that. But I'm
Right.
saying all these like I only touch American bikes, whatever.
And
Those
my
guys.
Road King also has Brembo brakes.
Right.
And I'm starting to wonder if my Brembo brakes actually came from Italia.
They're Brembo in the same way that the Brembo and our calipers and everything are on the new Vespa.
This is my point.
Yeah.
Right. I think we may be staring down the barrel of starting to see a little bit behind the curtain. Just if you just look long enough and put the things together, it's an X-Files game.
Can you imagine if this breaks, we just get to be like a permanent, like that dude from The Simpsons, the ha-ha guy.
Right.
Just walking around, it's
Right.
like, ha-ha.
Yeah, but
You know, Phil, you hit on something here a minute ago, and I want to come back around to it before we go any further. You said this is SWM is owned by Shine Ray. That also makes the G400C. So I want to know when Genuine's going to import this as the G1200C.
well, okay.
Here we go.
Here we go. But here's what kind of fucks me up a little bit. This motorcycle has already been advertised in the European market at give or take US dollars around 10 grand. Okay. The Harley Davidson Sportster, the last 2021 Harley Davidson Sportster that you could buy here in America was $10,000.
Right. So it's not even cheaper.
$10,291. We go from having Harley Davidson on the gas tank at $10,291 2 years ago to having SWM on the gas tank and it costing $10,000. That's what I want to talk about in tonight's podcast. The pricing of motorcycles. Does country of origin matter? How much does it matter? And how much are you willing to tolerate as a buyer, as a guy who's going to buy the bike? Because to me, there is an intrinsic price gap. There should be a price gap between the venerable Honda motorcycle that I've been buying for 20 years and the Chinese produced licensed version of it. There should be a price gap there. Mm-hmm. Now, at this point, I would assume that a Chinese marketing analyst would come up and go, yeah, dipshit, but the bike you've been buying for the past 15 years has been made in China. You just didn't know about it. So is you knowing about it now Is your education, is your knowledge of a thing worth us devaluing or reducing our profit margin?
Well, let me ask you something. Like, this is kind of on topic.
Yeah.
But so in the last, I don't know, 4 months or something like that,
Yeah.
you've seen like the market get flooded with like really quality looking Chinese bikes, and in all the different markets. So you have like the ADV market. They dropped one yesterday, a 300cc, 290-pound adventure bike that looks like a mini Africa Twin.
Right.
That like, and Cove came out, and like people are testing the Cove bikes that, you know, you can get a rally inspired but actually fucking fairly capable bike for $6,000 now.
That Benelli 300 looks like the cat's ass.
Yeah.
It looks like the cat's ass.
How long did we sit around the shop the other day talking about, you know, what do we do for 24?
No, but I'm saying, but what changed? Like, did they just all of a sudden, like, especially with everything that's going on and stuff, why is this is the year that this is all breaking? You know what I mean? Like,
does anybody else think that nothing opened the door for ClevelandMoto? Nothing opened the door for Benelli. Nothing opened the door for SSR or QJ better than the shortage of bikes as COVID and shipping problems, logistics problems. When you went into your local dealership and you said, "Come on, Bobby, let's go in and look at the Kawasaki's." And you went in there and there was like crickets. And you're like, "This is where the Kawasaki's used to be." Who walked into a motorcycle shop in that period of time and was shocked to find the fucking place empty? Shocked.
I expected it to be fairly empty. I didn't expect to see 3 bikes. And I think that was like that State 8 or not State 8.
Johnny K's?
Johnny K's, the real big
12,000 square foot showroom.
And there was nothing.
3 bikes.
Even Rick Roush. Roush had shit in it. There was 2 bikes. Remember, we stopped.
Maybe
hold
it was
on.
Rick Roush when we were out there.
Yeah.
And by the way, don't say those words because it's gone.
What do you mean?
They've been taken over by another company.
Oh, really?
They didn't survive the lack of inventory.
Roush didn't?
That particular dealership. The one down on Route 18 by Medina. That's been taken over by another sports funplex motorcycle shop or whatever, right? But so that lack of inventory hurt a lot of fucking dealers. Many of my friends said, my mortgage, my monthly expenses were based on me selling 40 bikes a month. And if you can't get me 40 bikes a month to sell, what am I going to do?
Right.
2 things happened. Guys started adding $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 to the price tag of every bike. So if we can't sell 40 bikes a month, we got to make a lot more money on the 10 we can.
Well, supply and demand.
Supply and demand. And everybody shit a golden goddamn brick when they went into their Ford dealer and said, that son of a bitch is charging $10,000 over the MSRP on an F-150.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, pick up your phone, call 75 dealers. He's the only guy who's got one. I know. I tried. Ford Transits were 10 and 15K over MSRP because one dealer had a couple.
So, but okay.
Yeah.
So China sees this and they see this mark going on, whatever. But my question is like, so up until this last year, right?
Right.
Most of these bikes, like they'd come out with a bike and there was something wrong with it. You'd look at it, you'd be like, man, they fucked the nose up, or like that totally doesn't matter. All of a sudden, this year, all the bikes that are coming over, they don't look like a fucked up magician.
I wish
with the
Pete
wrong
was here
thing.
right now, because if Pete was here, Pete and I went to the Indie Dealer Expo many years ago.
Yeah.
And we saw up on the stage the Benelli TRK 502.
Right.
This is, I'm saying 7, maybe 8 years ago, hand to God. A long time ago. And they weren't really watching us too carefully, because the people that were in the booth were not U.S. dealers or anybody else. This was a booth paid for by Benelli QJ Motor in China. They have this booth here. And the people that were in the booth didn't even speak English.
Right.
And Pete and I went up to that bike, and we were able to get way too up close and personal with it. And we were looking at the welds, and we were looking at the fitment of this and fitment of that. It didn't look good. And Pete was like, man, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to charge for it, but it doesn't look great. And that was a long time ago. Facebook will remind me when that was, but it was a long time ago, more than 5 years ago. And we looked at that, and it did not look great. Now, all of us looked at the Benellis in the showroom last year and a year before, and we thought they were fucking beautiful looking. The welds looked great. Everything on that Benelli TNT 135 looks fantastic. In fact,
and the
if we put it next to a Grom, the welds and the fitness of the Benelli TNT 135 is better.
Right. But
Better forks, better
the
brakes.
502 that you had in the shop looked pretty nice.
Yeah.
So was that just a different?
No, that's what happened in 8 years.
Yeah.
That's what happened
You've
in 8
given the
years.
Chinese 8 years to catch up to, because a lot, we talk about, Honda, for example, being a Japanese motorcycle manufacturer, but a lot of the stuff we get is Thailand.
Absolutely.
It's Thailand, Vietnamese.
Absolutely.
It's non, we can't afford Japan.
But you know what? And
the reality is that the Chinese kept, because CF Moto has tried for 20 years to bring bikes to the United States.
That's right.
And for 20 years we've laughed, CF Moto.
Yeah.
But they kept going back and going, how do we do this? How do we make this work? How do we make it work?
And you know what else I'm noticing too? These Chinese manufacturers aren't afraid of quick change.
Oh, no.
So it's like the big ones, these guys, you go to these like the adventure forums or whatever you're into, the curving forums, and all these guys are asking for these unicorn bikes, right?
Yeah.
The big guys never provide them because it's such a big chain to change to do all that. The Chinese guys are like,
They can change fast.
You want a 300-pound?
Right.
You'll buy this bike. All of a sudden, boom! The Benelli you're talking about, the 300 comes out.
Yeah.
And they're actually listening to the guys, and they're putting this shit out because they don't. If it doesn't work, whatever. They have another model waiting to go right after that one,
Chinese manufacturing for 30 years literally has been, you go to China, you tell them what you want, you tell them the grade, quality, and the appearance that you want, the color you want it in. Yep. And they ship it in a container here, and you forge the certificate on it when it arrives. But this whole mentality of, well, what do you want us to build? We'll build it for you given the price. And now they've gone, well, we can do that. We'll just do it direct.
If you can find a motorcycle guy with a really long gray beard that used to work at a Yamaha dealership or used to race Yamaha motorcycles in the 60s, they will be the first to tell you that the brand that right now is considered to be the number one most reliable brand you can buy is Yamaha. That in the 60s, when On Any Sunday was filmed, they were shit. They were garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to Honda, compared to Triumph, compared to BSA, that the Yamahas were early in the market and had a lot to fucking learn. Now, it took them time, but they got better, and they got better, and they got better, and they got better, and they got better. While their competitors didn't get better.
The original story about Honda has always been the most fascinating one of my life, because they went to Isle of Man. And Mr. Honda walked up and he looked at all the bikes and he went, well, I can do that. And he bought a bunch of NSUs, which is what the Dream looks like the Dream.
Yep.
And took them all back to Japan and reverse engineered
Retro
them.
engineered
And
them, yep.
showed back up, and his bikes fucking sucked.
Yep.
And everybody said, your bikes suck.
Right.
And he went, oh, I'm not going to live with that. And he went back and fixed it.
Yep.
But it
Exactly.
still took lead time from the 50s into the 70s, basically, before he finally went, okay, now I'm going to eat your lunch.
Yeah. So, looking at this list that we put up, I went to no small amount of trouble.
Yeah.
No small amount of trouble to research and find out different bikes in different categories and the gap, because the gap of the money in this is fucking terrifying. It's not like when you could go to a car dealership in 1978 and you could look at a Buick, you could look at, a Ford, and they were within $500 at a certain level. And then you'd go to the luxury level and they'd be within $1,000. Dealer, they were always trying to be very price competitive with each other. Everybody knew what everybody else was charging, and they were close because they knew that if they were close, then they could have a feature that would cost you to buy that car. A little feature here, a little feature there, something their competitor didn't have, and it would cause you to buy the car. Meckelfresh talked about auto dimming headlights, right? And we were talking about how the Fords and the Mercurys had the auto dimming headlights before other manufacturers had them. And we're talking the 50s and the 60s. And that feature might have been enough to cause you to buy one brand over another. When we look at the price gap on here, it's pretty fucking huge, the price gap. The Royal Enfield, which I'm going to say, hand to God, at $3,999 is offensively cheap. That is cheaper than a lot of Chinese bikes I know. That is cheaper than a lot. That's cheaper than a Benelli TNT 135. Very close to it. Very, very close to it. That's cheaper than a lot of 200s. That's cheaper than a lot of 250s. So the the Royal Enfield Hunter 350 at $3,999 comes in at a very, very low price point. Now, that's an Indian bike. That's not China. That's an Indian machine. The ClevelandMoto comes in next at their 300 NK, which is another bike. Nobody here in this room has any experience with a ClevelandMoto 300 NK. Nobody does. But it's only $41.99, and that is cheap as hell. There is a massive gap, 10%, 15% gap, before you get to the Benelli TNT 302. I have quite a bit of experience with that bike. It is a very, very solid bike. It is a bike that I would say I could recommend to anyone for a bike that is going to be durable and is not going to fall apart on you. It's a very solid machine. But for only $100 more, you get a Honda CBR 300. Fuck me, that gap should be bigger. Because nobody here is going to complain about a CBR 300R.
But again,
And it has 2 R's in it.
you're still talking about it because that's still a Thai Honda. That's still Thailand Vietnamese. Yeah.
Oh, we're not going to find a Japanese Honda on this list.
Not on this list.
There will not be a
that's-
Japanese Honda on this list.
And this goes back to your price gap situation is, should we charge more or not? And they're not.
Right. So you're the buyer. You go to buy a bike that's in this entry-level class. Why wouldn't you buy the Triumph Speed 4? Also made in India. So it's an Indian-built bike, but it's got that Triumph badge on it.
You're talking about the 400?
Yeah.
Oh, that thing looks sweet.
It looks sweet.
But if you look at the Hunter, it's not that much difference in different appearance.
Oh, it's a lot different.
I think that the Speed 400
I like that bike.
has the
thicker,
girthier, more
inverted
adult
forks, anodized, gold anodized forks,
Yeah.
the paint,
Yeah.
the scheme, the decals,
Yeah.
the stance, everything about it just blows. For a 400, it's the best one to get. And the price, I think it's the cheapest one.
I am not joking. We talked about that Hunter months and months and months ago on this podcast.
The only thing about it is it's a single.
Yeah.
So it's not a twin like the Kawasaki.
All right. Yeah, and that's a big deal, right? So when we're talking about,
Okay, I'm going back to sleep.
Jesus Christ.
Are you sure you don't want beer? I can get you. Do you want coffee? Do you want coffee bourbon?
I will not absolutely fault anyone for falling all over themselves to go out and buy a Speed 400 just to see what it's all about, because it's a fucking beautiful bike. I mean, that is a gorgeous bike.
Did we ever figure out the size? Is it full size or is it like a little bit smaller?
I'm looking at the wheels because the wheels are 17s, so that's a pretty good indication of what you got going on here.
Okay.
And so I think that with the wheels being 17s, I think that what you're looking at is probably a full-size motorcycle.
Okay.
Right. I think it's a full-size bike. And I do not think at all, I've ridden so many of the new Royal Enfields that I think that the 350 is going to have the same. Everything is light duty. Everything is kind of frail. Everything is kind of thin, which works great for the Indian market. But I think that for a lot of Americans, that's going to feel a little weird. That's going to be a little light duty.
I mean, I was kind of excited about, are they ever going to bring the CB350, the H-Nest to this country?
Right.
I don't care now. I wouldn't buy it. Not over that Triumph. And I love Hondas, but I wouldn't buy an H-Nest. You look at an H-Nest, it's ugly. And the more I look at it,
Yeah.
it looks like a CM tank. It's got that raised hump down the center of the tank.
Yep.
And they had a 100th anniversary one that is disgusting. It is the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Usually,
It's flat green with gold and black emblems and stuff.
Usually,
It is-
I'm the opinionated
I'm
one,
like,
and
what
man,
the
he is on a tear.
What are you doing?
I got to look at it now because it's fucking killing me that they had a 100th anniversary edition.
Well, no, it's a first anniversary edition.
Is it the green one?
Green one.
Oh God, it's flat green.
It's flat green.
It's flat green. All right, we'll pull it up here. Yeah, because we do.
No,
have
we're
to-
not going to do candy colors or anything like. Let's do this. No. It's
What are they doing? Matte finish?
It's matte. It's matte, and it's not good matte. There you go. Yeah.
Oh wow, that is.
Dude, that looks like every dude that's like fresh paint job on Craigslist.
Look at the badge. Look at the tank. Look at the tank emblem. It's a 1980 CX500. It's a CX500.
You're right.
Golden black. Simplest
right.
you could possibly have.
The literally the airbox covers emblem looks like something from the 50s.
Everything's round.
Wow.
That's terrible.
That does. They blew it, man.
Wait, what was the
proportions are
highness that
really
we saw
wrong.
that we liked? Wasn't there one that was cool?
Yes, this ain't it.
There's like a two-tone black and yellow one.
Yeah,
That's the best
right.
looking one.
Yeah.
And it has, but this is just.
Those proportions are way wrong. Like the
This
back
has
is
all
too
of that.
It was at this point that he realized he fucked up.
Yeah, it was. And the motor on this is that dead fucking perfectly 90-degree, perfectly vertical 350 single cylinder. Oh, man. Okay.
It's like a Royal, like Honda built a Royal Enfield.
You're right. I
Yeah.
think you're right. This bike could park next to the Hunter and be like, yeah, okay, here we are, buddy.
That's a good question. Is this an Indian market bike?
Absolutely.
So
Do you see that little weird crash bar down in front of the header pipe?
that makes more sense.
That screams India.
Yeah.
And you see that real wide badge under the headlight
Yeah, that's
for the number plate? That screams India. Yeah.
But that's the trick is
Yeah.
This is the Indira Gandhi of motorcycles.
It is. I think it might be. Oh, God. Oh, man.
There's other pictures. Like if you look at some of the close-up pictures, it's like, oh my god,
It doesn't get better. It gets worse.
negative.
Oh,
That actually has like a shine to it. It's not.
Right. Now, in the same pile of bikes, in the same exact pile of bikes, Kawasaki has their Z400. And their Z400 is,
RS.
51 fucking 99 though, boys. That is 1,000 higher than the ClevelandMoto 300 and the Royal Enfield Hunter. $1,000 more. And when you're talking about a bike that starts at $4,000, $1,000 more is a pile of cookies.
Well, that's
Yeah, but you're getting a whole
25%
extra
though.
cylinder and probably a red
Yes.
line of 10.5 and
Yes.
100 mile an hour and
Yes.
lots of things for that.
Yes.
By the
$1,000.
way, did you see the Z125 RS?
Yeah.
The fucking 125 version of my bike?
Yeah.
I have not, but that's intriguing.
Yeah. So
That,
so if you are going to be in the market, who's going to be playing that game? Which one of our buyers?
Well, you're talking about apples and oranges again, though, because the Z400 it's a Mantis. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes with the CBR 300.
right. Yeah, it does. It does.
But this is a naked.
The
wannabe sport bike.
CBR 300 is in this category.
Yeah, but
right.
money wise, but not looks wise.
Right. So
Also, the Versys 300 never made it anywhere in any of your categories.
no, it didn't. It really didn't. And honestly, the reason it didn't make it in the categories was that Kawasaki has those priced pretty fucking high, and so they're blowing their budget out.
I was looking at you have the Versys at 10.9 or 10 something.
Yeah.
Actually, more than the brand new Transalp 750.
Yes, and that's worth talking about. So kind of going back here to the
John, you're skipping ahead.
the God list. Well, that's cool. We can do that. I have no problem doing that.
I looked at the list.
Yeah,
I'm just got to prove I looked
And our
at the list.
podcast listeners can look at the list too, because it's going to stay up there. It's on the Cleveland Moto Podcast Facebook page. And if you want to get into that, that's fine.
We haven't convinced Steve. We haven't convinced Sleepy up there to put the Discord server together yet. So
Well, yeah, okay. Here's why. Do you know that the only way you can buy a Versus right now is as an LT, which means bags?
So that's why it's more than
Yes.
that Transalp.
Yeah.
Correct.
I saw the LT and I was
it,
wondering. I didn't understand that.
the only way you can buy it is a light tourer, and that is fully bagged out.
Okay.
And so, and especially since Kawasaki's so fucking proud of their bags, the Kawasaki bags. Remember that Versys 650 I had in my shop
Oh yeah.
with the LT package?
Yeah,
that
and
was
color coordinated.
Yeah,
color matching.
$2,300 over MSRP for those bags. So Kawasaki's proud of that. The fact that they don't offer the goddamn Versys unbagged at the 650 platform is kind of strange to me. But okay, that's the company ethos right now.
Bud Light, Tom.
Right, that's what they're thinking.
Make it two.
So
Thank you.
here's another massive price gap that I had to bring in an Enfield again. I had to bring in an Enfield again just to throw this fucking gap out. The vintage retros. So the vintage retros, Royal Enfield Meteor and Royal Enfield Classic, $43.99 and $45.99 respectively. All the way up to, again, if we want to put a Keyway in there, the Keyway's the bike you guys all sat on. Remember the QJ V302S that you guys got to ride around on?
Yes.
That baby Harley?
Yep.
So that's $49.99, $5,000.
Kiwi has a adventure bike coming out too.
They do.
Yeah, looks
And
pretty
so does
badass.
QJ.
Yeah.
So this is going to be real easy in the future, guys. Kiwi, Benelli, QJ, they'll all exist with somebody's badge on it. So if the bike that you're interested in isn't at the Kiwi, go look at the QJ. And if it's not the QJ, look at the Benelli. It's going to be there, but it's going to be under one of those flagships because QJ is the company, but Benelli and Kiwi are right underneath, right? That's part of those. That's their properties. And that's like saying, well, I wanted this particular Piaggio, I wanted this particular Vespa. Well, it's a Piaggio, right? That's fine. So when you look at this lineup, do you see that I had to throw the fucking Yamaha V-Star in there? The V-Star 250. Yamaha. Way to go, Yamaha. Dragging that shit out. That's almost Suzuki style. Dragging on a motorcycle that's been out since 1984 or some shit. Just to be in the running. But here's what fucking kills me. We know the Honda Rebel 300 has been out for a few years now.
Oh, yeah.
It's earned its stripes. It's been out there kicking it. It fucking kills me that a Rebel 300 is only $150 more than a V-Star 250. Now, yes, a V-Star has 2 cylinders, but a V-Star still has a fucking carburetor.
So does the Rebel, doesn't it?
No.
Rebel single.
Rebel 300?
Yeah.
I thought it's a CBR motor, twin cylinder.
no.
Oh, no,
that's
but
a single.
CBR is a single. So, yeah.
Single
cylinder.
cylinder. Yeah,
Yep,
right.
yep, yep,
Single
yep.
cylinder. Yeah. So the weird one in here is the new Benelli Imperial 400, which I got to say, hand to God, looks exactly like a Royal Enfield 500 that we used to know, the Bullet. So the Benelli Imperial.
Oh, yeah, we talked about this the other day.
We talked about it, yeah, and it is. God damn, it looks like an old Royal Enfield, and that could be its best thing, or it could be its worst thing. Is the way it looks. Some people are going to just be like, "Yep, that's the one I want," because it does look. God, it does look like.
I can't tell you the number of people that wanted that Royal Enfield as badly as they could possibly want a motorcycle.
Yes.
And I can't tell you the number of people I had to disappoint by telling them, no, it's made of fail.
God, it did not go well.
No.
That did not go well for us. I mean, that really harmed us. That hurt us in a lot of ways, that particular motorcycle. And when we look back on the amount of time that we wasted dicking around with the Royal Enfield 500 platform, and then the people that just insisted on keeping the bike and limping it along, head gasket after head gasket after head gasket, or failure after failure after failure, that 500 single, boy, that thing really created a lot of stress for us.
A customer of mine once asked how they could make that bike reliable because they got tired of rebuilding it.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I said, well, I know a couple of welders. We could put a Rebel 250 motor in it.
I just don't think that it's possible to own those old Royal Enfields, single cylinder 500s in a trouble-free fashion. I really don't. It's got a lot of fucking issues, and that's one of those things that I feel like, you want to give everything the benefit of the doubt, but when it comes down to it, sometimes a bike is just fucked. And I think that they engineered it. They did not ever engineer it with the idea that it was going to go to a market that would be driving it at over 50 miles an hour. That's where I think the fail point was. I really think that was where
The best thing you could do is put a sidecar on one.
That's a good idea.
It should never go more than 50, 60 miles an hour.
That's a really good idea.
It might just be. It should just be dry. And none of the new ones ever. The older ones had sidecars.
Yep.
But when they came out with the new motor and the new ones that we were selling, did we ever build a sidecar?
We did. I sold about 5 or 6 sidecars on Royal Enfields. Yep.
Now I do kind of remember.
Yeah, I sold a military green that we custom painted. I did a couple of black and white ones. We did a few of those.
Yes, I remember now.
And they were, and you're right, that sidecar was the perfect thing to take advantage of the very heavy crank, that 22-pound crank. The sidecar took advantage of that. It really did work. That worked. I very, very
If you're
happy
going to put a
with it.
sidecar on it, you might as well just put it right on that. It's a step up from a Urel.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That bike,
I don't know if that's actually a selling point on either of those bikes.
I think it looks better in silver, honestly.
It's a good looking bike.
It's a good looking bike, and I think to a lot of people, Sleepy, I think for people that want that Royal Enfield 500 look,
without the Royal Enfield disappointment.
Perhaps. This might be the way to do it.
Yeah.
And now that motor, again, we're going to go back into the QJ book. I think that motor is going to appear in some of the Chinese market bikes that you'd be like, oh, okay, well, look at that. That's that motor again. I don't think that it's going to be.
Now you pointed that out. Now I can't see it anymore.
I think that's going to be the new Janus motor.
Now the cylinder head's too far back now.
It is. There's a little bit of air in there. Yeah.
Now I'm bothered by that.
That's true. Yep. Yep. So anyway, that's that. So that's the Imperial 400.
It's like the front of the motor got into an accident, but the rest of the bike
kept going. Yeah. Oh, that's not good. That's never a good look. But anyway, that's something that I think as a whole, there are bikes that have just inherent, issues or problems. When Benelli told me we're going to have this bike for the United States market, let's go ahead and sell it, I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to get customers to give me $5,000 for that bike when a G400C is $4,000. And it doesn't have ABS or anything fancy enough to make it like worth an extra $1,000.
The G400C just needed a better paint scheme.
Oh.
Like some better paint, better pinstriping.
Okay.
Make it look more like a classic Honda or something, or like, and I think it would have been like it has a lot going for it.
Look what the versions of it in England look awesome.
They do.
Yeah.
They have way better
they really
paint
do.
schemes. And then they have the Cafe Racer, they have the Scrambler, they have all these versions we didn't get.
You can have it any color you want, as long as it's green or red.
Yeah. No, Sleepy, you spent like 2 weeks researching this thing, going down the rabbit hole of Nash motors and G400Cs and how you were going to take.
I still want to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell things.
And that's the thing is Genuine's biggest, I don't want to say failing, but lack of foresight is not bringing multiple versions of the things. Like when we were talking about the Psycho Buddy the other day and everything else, they used to have all the special editions and all the special bikes and all the special things. And now it's just, we have product here, sell it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad.
Well,
And
I here's the thing that I don't want to shit on Genuine about, but the G400C didn't sell.
yeah.
So they had this idea years and years ago when we all, as dealers, we all went, oh yeah, bring that thing in, price it at $39.99, sword dick deal. I'm going to sell a ton of those things. And it was 4 fucking years before the bike showed up. And in that period of time, all the energy went away. All the air went out of the balloon. So when they did finally bring it out, they brought it at $49.99 or $40, and then they dropped it to $45.99. It didn't matter. All the energy had already gone out of it, and people had bought other bikes. And they finally did some kind of a discount, blew it out at $39.99. That was the only way we could sell them, was selling them at $39.99. Well, but by then, Genuine was already bummed because they were like, we put the time into the NHTSA, we did the FMVSS, we did all the EPA and all the things we had to do to make it available in the United States, and we're not getting any return on our investment. Well, because you didn't continue to promote the fucking thing hard and say this is the bike everybody should be buying if you want to buy a $39.99 bike.
And here's the thing.
You printed out the badging on a Cricut and stuck it on there.
Right.
You didn't even make a badge.
That's true. Now they've done all the research for Shine Ray, though.
Right.
So the question is, can Shine Ray just go ahead and dump a brand out here with the G400C?
Is there any reason why they didn't bring the other models in?
Because Shine Ray decided to have Genuine be their distributor.
Yep.
And Genuine said, we're in it for this much. Just the tip.
Just the tip.
But if Shine Ray decided to be their own distributor in the United States market, look over at SSR and see what's happening. SSR had Benelli. But now QJ, who's Benelli's daddy, is over at SSR. And now Keyway and Benelli are over in the other column. And Keyway and Benelli are not part of SSR. They're part of QJ, but they're not part of SSR.
Oh.
Yeah, your head's starting to hurt now, isn't it?
Yep.
We need that fucking
We need
Charlie
Charlie with the
thing.
charts,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's why when I make a list like this and I'm going through it, it's because it is painful to go through this. It is. There's a lot of fucking moving parts, a whole lot of moving parts.
And every 6 months it's going to change. So
Right, and that's also true because at any moment, CFMoto could decide we're going to do a barn burner. We're going to price these things because CFMoto is in the U.S. as their own distribution. And keep in mind, when Kimco did their own distribution, we got different bikes and the price dropped, right? Because they no longer had to support that middleman. There was no longer an extra guy in the middle. Right now, CB500X or Benelli TRK 502. Now, the CB500X is $72.99. The TRK 502 is $1,000 cheaper. For $1,000, if you want a middleweight adventure style bike, I don't know, man. It's really fucking bothering me because we've all sat on the TRK 502. It's a big honking bike, right? It feels like it's put together well. But I think we've also, in my shop, sat on the CB500X that's sitting in there. And that's a really good fucking bike.
well, it's the baby 700.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's weird though. Like when you look at and I guess I don't know how good the components are, but when you look at the forks,
Yeah.
it's like the forks like they're like from a 1970s fucking like CB 450. You know what I mean? But then you look at like the TRX forks.
The TRK's forks are amazing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of weird. It's like you're getting kind of like the high end of,
I agree.
their stuff compared to Honda's. Like, yeah, this will work. Like, I'm not taking anything away. That is a great bike, but you are getting mediocre forks.
We've
mediocre
said for
suspension.
years, though, that when you get into the lower end of any Japanese Big Four motorcycles, it's always the bargain bin, last generation science because that's the way they keep the price low.
Right.
And now you're dealing with a company that really just wants to throw money at things because they built the forks for Honda anyway.
See, and this is the weird part. Like, the reason that people go back to Hondas and things like that, even when you're on the lower end and you're getting like the mediocre forks and stuff, is that engine reliability. So I wonder, like, are they going to be able to hold it together as all this continues to move forward with some of these lower end things? Because, like, what's the point of buying a Honda if you don't get a fucking engine reliability of a Honda?
Because it was the CBR 300 that had the crank failures for the first generation for a longest time.
All of them.
Yeah.
Right.
And they had a rig. I don't even want to imagine. I mean, as the guy who's going to have to do the crank repair, that's a pain in the ass.
Oh, Emma's done tons of them.
Yeah.
But looking at the TRK 502X, okay, it's $1,000 cheaper, but it looks really good.
It's a sexy
It
bike,
looks like a baby Triumph Tiger.
And it comes with so much cool shit already on it.
Except for that giant canister of muffler that's going to get thrown in the trash after 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah. But
No, dude, those are usually pretty good. I've never changed. Yeah.
here's the good news. You could drive it with that exhaust on it for 5 years.
Yeah.
And if you decide you really hate it, there are options.
Yeah, right.
Right? There are options.
Well, that's going to get in the way of the bag.
Yeah. So, but we all know that what happens in that exhaust can't be changed, or can't be anything tough to change.
Oh, yeah.
That, to me, that's a really, really cool fucking bike, right? Mm-hmm. And if we're saying that's a good brand, if we're saying it's a good quality product, and we're saying that it's going to be something you can own and keep, well, that might
My
that might be
lizard
better,
brain
right?
lizard brain keeps coming to the fact it says CFMoto down the side of it, and CFMoto to me is the E-Charm.
Well, that doesn't say CFMoto on the side.
Yeah.
That's QJ.
Oh, that's Benelli.
That's
That's
Benelli,
Benelli.
right? And you have to look at that and you go, okay, well, that's what that is.
Yeah.
When we throw up the exact same picture, when we throw up the exact same shot, okay, but we change it over to being the Honda, right?
It looks so much cheaper.
It looks less busy in my opinion. I prefer the look of the Honda, but that's me. I like the 700X.
Oh, I don't mind the 700X, but look at the forks, man.
Yeah,
The forks
they're
look
just
like
as spindly as they've always been. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. My
You're right.
KLR had the same size
box frame. It's like, it looks
Yeah.
like they cut a ladder off from your dad's garage to make the fucking swing arm. Like, and I know those are great though, the box
Yeah.
frame thing, but I'm just saying look wise, it just looks antiquated.
But to me it doesn't look antiquated. It just looks less busy than the TRK.
Right.
All right.
Because the TRK looks really busy. There looks like a lot going on. Yeah. This is just like, okay.
All the fancy shit that every manufacturer brags about is on the TRK 502. Meanwhile, the Honda is very clearly being built down to a price point.
Oh, yeah.
It's more of a Sparrow than a Raptor.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, you're right.
If you just look at the schnabel.
Yeah, the pecker is much smaller.
Yep.
It has a lack of pecker. Hadn't really thought of it that way before.
Yeah. No,
but it
he's
definitely
on it
has
there.
a
It looks
lack
like
of
it
pecker.
looks like a sparrow. Yeah.
Well, and it also has the jet ski seat. Like whenever you have like
More like
the
a
one-piece jet ski seat, it always cheapens the bike too.
Yeah, that's
For
true
some
too.
reason,
Yeah,
man.
that is absolutely true. So I guess when
And that fucking exhaust. That's what's killing.
Oh
that
yeah,
bike.
no, that thing
fucking-
is I having pulled several of those off both the 500 and the 700. I just those things weigh a
Just put
ton.
a fucking can on it, man.
Yeah.
it is definitely, I am definitely of the opinion that concessions were made
Oh yeah.
in the interest of profitability. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that the CB500X will give you a reliable, undeniable service.
It's the Mr.
But it also looks like it's 7 years old.
It's a Mr. Coffee. That is the
looks
Mr. Coffee of
7.
motorcycles.
When you compare this to Kromke's Tiger looks like liquid sex.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to this thing. It
That's what I was
really
saying
is.
about the TRK though. The TRK
Yeah.
kind of resembles the Triumph,
But here's the one thing.
which I think is kind of the point.
I
Yeah, I don't
haven't-
think so.
I
I think the
haven't-
Triumph looks different.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
wrong. You get punched in the face.
You're
Jesus
just waiting to
Christ.
punch me in the face.
it's all.
Any excuse.
Well, that guy
Well,
said
you got to remember it's all fun and games until
Tom gets punched in the
you
face.
Till Tom punches you back.
Right, exactly. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that particular one up because that one to me hurt when we're talking about like when you think about how much money that is, right? And there's so many options right now. We are spoiled for choice. The 700cc class goes from a Yamaha Tenere at $10,800 all the way down to a CF Moto at $6,899, right? That's the biggest gap I could find. Those are both 700s, man. I came home with a 700cc motorcycle today, honey. Great. What'd you spend? I either spent $6,899 or I spent $10,800. That's a $4,000 gap. It's a $4,000 fucking gap. And they're both 700cc adventure bikes. There had better be a lot of fucking sex in that Yamaha for $4,000, right? That's a ton of fucking money right there.
See, but then there's also a couple like in that other thing, the Cove 450 now and stuff. They're coming in at $7,500 and $7,800 and
Yep.
and things. So they're adding even more options. And those are street legal off-road, official ADV bikes and
Yes.
stuff. So it's crazy.
All right. I'm going to say it because you're pointing out the list there. I kind of feel funny about the Ibex now. that CF Moto Ibex 900
Yep.
kind of does it for me a little bit.
The CF Moto Ibex is not a bad looking bike. We talked about it.
especially with the bags on it,
Right.
And those gold rims with the split. Now it's got two rims. I'm a little bit. I'm the Tenere guy for that,
Right.
but.
Yeah, the CF Moto Ibex, again, if you look very quickly, you're going to go, oh, BMW F800 GS.
Exactly.
Right? And that's not an accident.
No,
That's completely
no.
100%
Well, it's-
what they planned for
this
you to do.
This is what Kia and Hyundai went through when they did the redesign after they stole all of the design geeks from Mercedes and
Yep.
BMW.
Yep.
Everything looks like a BMW.
Everything looks
Mercedes.
exactly like a BMW.
Well, yeah, that's because they sell and they're worth a lot of money, and
Right.
people. It's not hard to design these.
Right. When we look at the bike like that CF Moto Ibex, I'll pull it up so you guys can take a better look at it. It's so obviously a crime. Like the design of it is so obviously a crime that you're like, no, you couldn't get away with that. You're gonna get sued. No, they didn't get sued. It's a different bike. Like I'm sure they have somebody making sure the lawyers stay off their case.
This is not the Rebel Sportster lawsuit of the early '80s. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
and because the V-Strom. No, it was the SV650 SV650X had that look to it where it's very angular and very
Yeah, it had that look. Yeah.
Yeah.
The I'll pull the CB. I'm going to pull the CF Moto up so you guys can take a look at it because
Yeah.
it is one of those bikes where you're like,
John says, "Don't fuck with me. I'm sleeping."
Yeah, he's a lot of sleep.
Sleepy found there. What was it? Were those the CF Moto 650s they were trying to get rid of? The leftover 2022s for like no money.
Oh, they were blowing
3,800 clams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so if you're on Cycle Trader and you want to steal, look up CF Moto.
Yeah.
And then report back
But-
how the quality is.
Look at this motorcycle because this is
Not going to lie. I'd throw my leg over that a couple times, see how it worked out.
right. Now, again, money being money.
Yeah.
It's your money.
Because that's right in the middle of your spot. Because you had the high end with the Yamaha Tenere and you had the low end with the I think it was the other CF Moto.
Right. Yeah, we did.
And this lands right dead center.
Well, again, 10,499. So this isn't that 10.5. Like you're in real bike money now. So real bike money, 10.5. Ibex 800. Wow. 800cc.
You're talking about a used Africa Twin at this price, though.
You are definitely talking about a barely used Africa Twin.
Yeah.
Dude,
And
I
that-
got mine with 1,200 miles on it for $7,800.
So that's the question: is do you buy a brand new?
I take the Africa Twin
Questionable
every
bike.
day.
Yeah.
Every day. Give me a 2-year-old Africa Twin.
Oh, yeah.
Over this? Yeah, for sure. Not even a bat an eye at that.
Take it home.
Right. And because that is the exact same price, by the way, as a Yamaha Tenere 700. Right? So,
Very nice.
So do you want a CF Moto
Do you want-
Ibex
do you want
800T or
around?
do you want a Tenere 700?
I'll take the T7.
I'll take the T7
Yeah.
or I'll take the year-old Africa Twin or 2-year-old Africa
But this
Twin every
this
single
goes
time.
back to the question of do you want a new bike or a slightly used bike?
Right.
Or
And-
I'll take the Transalp 750.
Yes. So the Transalp 750 is at an even 10K. At an even 10K. The Triumph Trident 660 is at 83.95. Right?
Goes down there.
These are all motorcycles that any single person, if you're considering buying,
Hey Dan, behind you.
we didn't list. What you got there, buddy? Toss it. I'm a real good catch.
Hang on to that.
Oh, Buffalo Trace, look at that little baby. Oh, airplane.
No. That's just a
no.
container.
Oh, is it just a container? Is
Take it-
this
take it to- yeah.
Is this apple pie?
It's hooch.
Oh, apple pie.
Okay, I'm going to pie up.
No.
God. Oh, God, that's good. That literally,
I can put the cod out if y'all need it. I've got
cinnamon
an air
cranberry,
mattress.
like-
Y'all need it.
that tastes like Jolly Rancher for adults.
Does it taste like Elf on the Shelf came in your mouth?
Oh my God, that's delicious.
Where the fuck are you coming from with that?
And I
Apparently
love
he's
the
had an elf
serving
come in his
size.
mouth.
It's so good. Oh, man. Oh. And my breath is now cinnamony fresh. You guys can tell I'm battling a head cold.
So it's mouthwash. Gotcha.
Oh, it is
ahead,
totally
go
mouthwash.
I'll do it. Yeah, let's go.
Come on.
Yep, that's elf cum.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, that's nice. That's a little
Homemade.
That is homemade. That is delicious. God, I wish our podcasters could taste this.
Oh yeah, no, that is.
Here's the thing about this. Most of the time
That
when
is
you
delightful.
get cinnamon,
Dunka.
Oh, if you want, I can go get some. I got vanilla extract
The
in it. We're gonna
apple.
do apple pie a la mode.
the apple
go.
cuts through on
Here,
this.
hang on, I'll be right back.
This is more apple than it is cinnamon.
I don't even know yet.
It's all gone, Tom. It's all gone.
You're too late.
Too late. Well, I like the way
Take your time, Tom. Take your
Kroenke
time,
saved
Tom.
his. All right.
Here,
Now,
John-
what's
Johnny,
weird is
Here, try that element.
Take your time, Tom.
so
No rushing back.
John, you might want to wait for the cinnamon extract for that, or the vanilla for that one.
Hurry up, let's
well,
finish
wait for the vanilla because
No, hurry up. Let's finish it.
the vanilla will make it better. You know what's funny is when I looked at this and I saw that the difference between the Moto Morini and the Triumph 660 was less than $1,000.
Hey,
That's yummy.
that's pretty good.
I'm only going to have the Triumph. There's no way I'm going to have a Moto Morini. Moto Morini has 3 bikes to the American market.
That Moto Marina looks pretty cool.
It
though.
looks super cool.
That red and black thing.
It looks
right.
super fucking cool. The Moto Morini looks badass. It really does. But
Oh, boy.
it looks badass.
That's
but
vanilla extract. You want it in your apple pie?
Sure.
You got a couple drops in there, right?
Sure.
now they're doing discounts on all of them. So the Marinis are $69.99 for
crazy.
the standard, and then $72.99 for the fucking Perry Dakar looking thing.
Going crazy.
But
You want some ice?
Nope.
that Perry Dakar looking thing, I know Steve's going to be all over that. There's no way you can not be all over that. It's a cool looking bike.
Awesome.
And we're talking about $72.99.
I know.
So again,
That's what I'm saying. Like,
really hard to not get excited about that.
Like up until this year,
Right.
all these Chinese bikes would come out, and there'd always be a compromise. Like, man, they're doing okay. The motor's working pretty well, but I just can't get over that. It looks like a fucking walrus or something, right? But then this year they fucking drop and look, they're all like you're saying, like they're all kind of copies of something else.
Right.
So they feel familiar,
Right.
And then they didn't fuck it up, like they didn't like make the tail way too long or this, whatever.
Yeah.
Like
They're not ugly.
No,
they're not ugly. And a guy that was our rep at Zero, Scott Greenwood, is working at Moto Morini, and that's one of those things. Like I trust him. He's a great racer. He's a good guy. And if he's working at Moto Morini, that tells me there's something there. There's something good there because he wouldn't work for a bunch of shit asses. Like he's a straight up great guy. So when I look at things like that, then I'll go, okay, well this is probably pretty good, And that's just one of those things. And I do think they look cool. Now, the problem is the price point. And this is when they called me to be a dealer.
Yeah.
The first thing I had to say was, your bikes are really cool. They are really cool. They're fucking cool bikes, man. You got really cool bikes. I'm not complaining about your bikes. They look cool. They're neat. Now, I got to sell it. And my problem is, can I sell it? Because their name, the Moto Morini 650, is called the Sei Mezzo with 2 M's. That's
Easy
a
for
lot.
you to say.
Yeah, no shit, man, right?
I have a really hard time buying a Moto Morini that's not a V.
Also true, right? Because in our soul,
Oh, yeah.
every Moto Morini is
3.5,
supposed to be 3.5
or 5.
Right. Every Moto Morini in our
Yep.
soul is supposed to be
Yep.
3.5 or a 5 and a V twin because that's what made them special back then.
Yep.
So this has no callback to people that remember what Moto Morinis were if they're the 4 of us.
Right.
I even kind of like that bike, to be honest with you.
See, this begs a question.
Looking like trying to be a Ducati scrambler.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but even the Scrambler's a V.
Right.
And that begs the question is the Chinese are building a lot of bikes. And they're all very, very similar across the range, no matter what you look
A
at.
lot of parallel 500 through 800s,
and I
right?
get it's a
Yeah.
price
Right.
savings and a price point, but at
Cheap
the
to
end of the
build.
day, you're building
Right.
body work and wrapping it around the same bike.
Right.
And at what point do you go, okay, we have oversaturated the market with the same bike?
Right.
And that's my big concern coming on our end of the spectrum is, well, how do you sell these damn things? And the reality is you're selling the same bike, just a different plastic.
And how do we sell the bike when the bike is literally $800 less than a Triumph Trident?
Yeah.
Fuck. A Moto Morini that even as an Italian bike nobody's heard of for 30 years.
Right.
Right? You're going to resurrect a brand name. Nobody's heard of for 30 plus years. A V-Strom
I would
costs-
argue they were rare 30 when they came
Oh, they
out. I
were.
mean, like there aren't.
You
don't see Moto Morinis laying around
Nobody-
in barns or anything. like that.
Exactly.
I missed a 500 one time. I had it like in front of me and I made an offer at the guy and he's like, nah, I think I'll keep it.
If you bought that 500 and you needed a part for it, you were gefucked.
Oh, I got a Kajiva Alzura in the garage. I still can't buy parts for.
There you go. Prime Tom bike, right?
Yeah.
A bike you can't support. You shouldn't have bought in the first place. It's in the garage.
Tom will buy it.
Right. But when I look at these bikes and I see the pricing on them, that V-Strom is at 9,100. The Triumph is at 83.95, and the Triumph is fucking gorgeous.
See, that's the other end of the thing because you've got Triumph and Honda and everybody else that are modifying their prices.
Right.
Because this is a callback to your earlier conversation. Is it worth them dropping their price
Right.
to compete with CF Moto? And the answer is apparently yes.
I guess so.
Because the Triumph is Indian. It's Bajaj,
I think it
right?
has to be, yeah.
I think it's Bajaj.
that- even at
'Cause
that size, yeah.
they've worked out with Bajaj. So it's really funny in my head that the Indians and the British are working together.
Yeah, well, that's
They have a history of that, I think.
that in and of itself can be an issue.
But
right?
India really doesn't like China as far as their marketing, manufacturing goes, and India's really getting in the competitive market.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
maybe the only thing you ever really have here is the marketing power and the brand recognition of Triumph, which Up until 96, nobody gave a fuck about Triumph.
Okay.
Except for
yeah.
old men.
Yeah. All right. Well, but that's one of those ones where I've grown to trust Triumph to the point where I think that if Triumph is going to be building a bike, it's a good bike.
I mean,
And
the coils and the pickup trigger are still going to fail by 3,000 miles. So, yeah,
that's a beautiful bike.
That's
a gorgeous bike. And I think that might be in the history of Triumph.
Is that the 400? The Speed 400?
This is the Trident.
Okay.
This is the Trident.
Wait.
Did you see they're going to make a Daytona version of the 660?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Okay, I need some more information about this. It's a Trident.
Yeah.
Is it actually triple?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's all I need to know.
Yeah, because that
That's
would
my
be
question.
a fucking cardinal sin if it didn't
That's
have
my
a third
question.
fucking cylinder on there, right? Yeah. So
Well, no.
I think it's a beautiful
thing.
motorcycle,
It
right?
looks good,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to lie, I love triple motors because of all the torque of a twin.
Yep.
And all the rev range of a 4.
Right. Exactly. And triples are magical. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
know that. And this is a 660 triple. So your 660 is a twin.
Yeah.
No,
Right?
triple.
Oh, it
It
is
is?
triple. You're right. You're right. Oh, fucking
Okay.
yeah. Right. So to me, a 660 triple is far more interesting than a 650 twin.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because of that delivery of power, that experience of being a triple. So, I mean, I loved Yamaha 750 triples, but they
Well,
weren't
it's
reliable.
so smooth. Dan's bike's almost electric.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it feels
No,
electric.
My 900.
And the power band
Triple?
appears to be infinite.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
you're right.
That
My-
900 triple I
yeah.
had was
Yeah,
amazing.
my Thunder Chicken was
Yep.
wonderful,
Yep.
right? That thing was great. Every Triumph Triple I've ever owned has been
When I- my
fantastic. My,
first-
Tiger was great.
The first 675 I ever rode, I fell in love with,
Yeah.
except for the fact that every time I hit the brakes, I thought I was going to launch myself over the handlebar.
yeah,
I love my Thunderbird. I wish I could get fuel injection for that bike.
yeah.
That would be fucking
Yeah.
like because the
Wouldn't
carbs,
that be cool?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always
That'd be
fighting
cool.
those carbs and not fuck up.
No, that thing was a great motor let down by its airbox and intake
And you know,
and the coils.
it had its issues. I'm not gonna lie to you. That bike definitely had a whole bag of issues.
You get three flat slides and brand new coils in that thing, it'll run. But if you got the standard CVs and that
Dan,
giant
you're
three-piece
talking about the new Triumph, and that's going to be a Daytona. Oh, what?
Daytona 660s.
Yeah.
Middleweight sport bike.
Yep. And we've had a few of these. I've owned some Daytona I've owned some Daytona 600s in the 4-cylinder configuration. This, I'm assuming, it'll be a 3-cylinder, right? So I'm assuming it's going to be everything we know about a Daytona 660, or everything we know about a Daytona, but with that 660 motor in it. So if there's going to be a triple. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a smooth sport bike.
Yep. Because my TT I had was a 604 banger.
Yep.
Right. This does look like.
That was a Speed 4 with a body.
Yep. I'd like to find a picture of it in anything other than black, honestly, but
They'll have a gold one somewhere.
Yeah,
they
just
won't have
find
that.
it- right.
I regret they got rid of that pink. They had a really
Yeah.
great pink for a
yeah.
while.
Yeah, that's one of those colors too. That's a very proud color.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's cool. Pink motorcycles look cool. They do. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty badass.
And honestly, from this direction, it looks like a Daytona.
It
'Cause
does.
They
Yeah, it does.
have kind of maintained that exact look.
They have.
Yeah.
They have. It's definitely as identifiable as that bike.
Yeah, the
It is.
snout. They got the snout going
Yep.
on.
Yep. Yeah, so they got a little whoop. Where'd it go?
The
Where'd you
timeout?
go, buddy? I have no idea.
Oh,
Something happened. I have no idea what the hell that's all about.
Are you loading? Did you find an anime?
Yeah, I
page?
found some
anime page.
some spyware to put on your
Oh, great.
put on your shit. Yeah.
Now we're playing porn.
Yep. Oh yeah. Doesn't matter. We're going down to the other channel.
That's true.
Yep. But I definitely think that when it comes to that price point, probably going to buy the Daytona. Probably going to buy buy a Triumph.
Getting back to the important part, because one of the things we have to kind of come back to on our end is, will the Chinese bikes sell? Because there's a Triumph dealer down the road.
Right.
There is a Honda dealer down the road. You can't be you can't be a Big Four.
Right.
You can't be a Triumph dealer. You can't be a Ducati dealer because God, who would want to be? Aprilia, okay, they're there. They exist. We talked about Moto Guzzi again this week, but the reality is the only markets that are opening right now are CF Moto and Benelli and,
Yeah, Moto Marina asked me. They said, "Do you
Marini.
want to be a dealer?" And I was like, "No,"
And-
because you have 3 bikes, and your 3 bikes that you have cost the same as other bikes
And
that I think are equally good
this
for the
is-
same money.
And we talked about this. This is the early adopter situation. Do you want to be the first Hyundai Kia dealer on the block?
Right.
And see how they work out.
No
But
way.
watching how much they cut into, because like Sleepy looked at, they're $1,000 off right now on Cycle Trader.
Right, exactly.
Because nobody wanted last year's model, and so now they're $1,000. They're a deal or a steal.
Right,
But do you want to be the guy that buys the first Hyundai Excel?
right, yeah, right.
And we all know
did.
kind of how
Yeah,
they,
you did. Sleepy did. Like that.
literally
That's
did.
he,
literally.
he did, and that's
I got 90,000 miles on it before it broke.
Yeah.
That's more than most Excel drivers.
And my mom had like one of the very first Hyundais.
Oh yeah.
And she was so impressed because we didn't grow up, we didn't
Well,
have money, but
Yeah.
like she had a moonroof.
Yeah.
And she was the happiest person in the world because they had a moonroof.
The S Coupe. What is the S Coupe? The S Coupe. Those were cool looking cars for the time.
I just, I wish I would have had a 5th gear. Like having 4 gears.
Was it a 4-speed manual?
4-speed manual with no overdrive.
Oh, God.
So like, and that's when I was trying to be a DJ.
Right.
So like, they'd be like, Texas would be like, "We'll pay you $50 to play in the bathroom," and I'd be like, "I'll be there." So I was on the highway doing 70, like
7,000 RPM. Yeah.
and like no air conditioning, no
Oh,
radio,
God.
no anything.
But that's
But dude, hold on, dude.
Go for it.
I forgot about this. So it was so fucking hot. I'd be driving to all these DJ gigs that I decided to fucking like run an air hose on my mirror and run it down into my shorts.
What?
To fucking blow air
swamp
into
cooler?
my fucking balls, dude.
This Ram Air.
But I didn't
ram air.
I didn't think about the fact that anything would hit the fucking hole because it's
no.
only a 1-inch tube, right?
well, guess what?
This fucking bee flew in there, flew down the thing. It stung my dick, dude. I
You were dancing that night.
2 360s in the middle of the fucking highway and stopped on the side. Oh my God. So then I figured out. So then I modified it.
Then he put his sock on the end of the hose.
No, and then I figured it out and I put a screen over a funnel so
Yeah.
that I even got more airflow, but it also had a screen over
Yeah,
it.
she had a screen over
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was your,
so-
but that idea obviously hung around for a while.
It did. And you know what sucks?
Because you had version 1 and version 2.
No, but dude, just like last year, I saw some guys on one of those late night things, and they had like the jewel cooler or
Right.
some shit
Yeah, yeah, I
like
saw
that.
that,
Like
yeah.
now they have a commercial version of it.
Right. It's become commercially
Well,
available.
I missed my fucking call to glory, man.
Well, that's Phil. When y'all drove down for Babe Rally, y'all had the cooler full of ice with the hose from the air outlet
legit.
into the cooler through the ice out.
I'm going to tell you that the air coming out of the vents, we had a thermometer. The air coming out of the vents was 104 degrees. The air going into our balls was 50 degrees.
Oh no,
50 degrees. And I had a tube.
See, you had
and Dustin
science.
had a tube.
Yeah, you guys had
And Shane had a tube. And we each had a flexible tube that we bought at the hardware store. Aluminum flexible hose.
Yeah.
But we didn't go out of the outside air.
No.
We went off the dashboard air because if you steal the air off of the heater core, the engine runs cooler.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was 108 degrees out.
And it's filtered.
And we
Right.
could keep all the windows closed.
Right. It's filtered air.
So we could keep all the windows closed, kept us good on miles per gallon. Duct taped the intake right. We had 4 hoses coming off the vents, off the plenum, we had 4 individual hoses coming in off the dashboard vents of the Econoline. Those went into a styrofoam cooler. And then every night we'd raid the ice box at the motel and fill that sumbitch up to the top. And then we had our outs, our gazautas going out individually. Now we had come up with a version 2.0, which had a secondary box, a secondary styrofoam cooler.
A thumper.
And the secondary styrofoam cooler was an accumulator.
Oh, nice.
So that you could chill in one box and then move the air from box 1 into box 2, and box 2 to the accumulator, and then that would push into your ball sack so that the air would have a longer time to hang around the ice. It'd slow the air down and it would spend more time around the ice and drop the temperature dramatically.
Right,
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Necessity is the mother of strange bedfellows.
But it's also it's amazing if you can get the boys cooled down, how much the rest of your body follows.
You know who our sponsor was for that trip?
Who's that?
Gold Bond. Gold Bond. And we would get out at every single stop and we would powder up. I could taste Gold Bond after a week of that trip. 10 days of that trip.
On the way back, it was Boudreaux's butt paste.
It was fucking crazy, man. It was crazy. That trip was bonkers.
But
it was so much fun.
This again, coming back around to the motorcycle aspect is: do you want to be the guy that has? Again, it's been 20 years since ClevelandMoto made the fashion e-charm mistake.
Yes, exactly.
And now they're a respectable brand.
Right.
With no real following yet.
Here at Johnson Johnson & Johnson, we represent you. Were you using Gold Bond on your nuts 10 years ago? Have you noticed cysts or protuberances?
Yeah, perhaps.
That was a huge. I'm not going to lie. That was a huge lawsuit, and they did not do well.
Yeah, they did.
But it is. What is it? Selenium? I think
Whatever
it is.
you're not allowed to put that on your hoo-ha.
No. Do not do that.
You can't do that. Your hoo-ha will get cancer.
Yep.
Yeah. We learned that. Baby powder is not good for your hoo-ha.
Is ClevelandMoto, is Benelli, is everything going to sell?
What's
Is all this product going to move?
I have no idea. That's what's terrifying.
I know.
Right? Because right now I get calls every week. Hey man, you gonna carry my shit? And I'm gonna be like, well, your shit didn't sell last year.
I was gonna say
and your shit didn't sell the year before.
If it's marked down $1,000 on Cycle Trader, it's not moving.
No. And
so now
I
your
had
problem's
to,
marketing.
as much as I loved the Leoncino, I loved that Benelli
That was a
Leoncino.
cool
That was
little
a
bike,
great
man.
little bike. And that thing fit me like a glove. Oh, I love that bike. I couldn't sell it until I did a closeout sale.
It shocks me that I have seen in my life worked on 2 Husqvarna Svartpilens.
Yeah.
Help yourself. Ice right here.
Right.
And for the fact that if I had a nickel for every Svartpilen I've ever worked on, I'd have 2 nickels, which is really weird.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
And to look at the Benelli, not gonna lie, that's a good looking bike.
It is.
If somebody had a Moto Guzzi California 2 or 3 and then decided to put a sport bike seat on it, this is what you would end up with.
I think
With a V7 motor.
I think my only criticism
That bike doesn't exist. This bike does.
It does.
Right.
But
It
my,
does.
My only criticism on this bike, because I like this bike a lot.
Right.
I think having that plastic cover go over the tank like that, I think if they wouldn't have done
You need
that,
a little logo thing on the
That
side.
Yeah.
fucked up Aprilia. What it was, the Aprilia 5.2 or something crazy in the
Weird
early
shit.
90s. Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that's what it reminds me of.
but it's just I
That
don't. I
weird
think
art
if they would have
concept.
left that off and just left the tank be a tank,
This bike was one of the happiest 500cc motorcycles I've ever ridden. And its weight was not too heavy. It wasn't too light. It was just right. It was just fucking perfect. And there's a YouTube channel of a guy I watch, and he's just driving one everywhere you should drive it, right? And he's like, will this go there? Yeah, it turns out it will. He's
put
got
what is
some
it?
semi-nobbies on there.
I was
He's
gonna
like,
say,
well, it'll
you
just go any
You
goddamn
put,
where.
what is it, the TKs on it?
Yep. Yeah. TKC 80s on there. It'll go any goddamn where. And I just loved this bike. I found that the motor was exactly perfect to get me to like 120 on the freeway.
I said anything to dildo if you're brave enough.
And he's back.
And he's back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. But that's like, to me, that's a great little bike. It's a fantastic bike, and it kills me that it took us so much energy to sell one at my shop to make one of these fucking bikes disappear.
How much are those?
Well, here's the problem, John, is they don't exist anymore, but they
Where
were
are they?
$67.99.
I mean, that's right there with like a Honda Rebel 500.
It sure is.
This
Way
is-
better looking bike.
This is the gist of this entire podcast is this worth it?
And that's the problem is
Ooh,
I really love
where's
that
there
bike.
blue?
What's that?
There's 2 colors. Or are those that just red and green?
No,
It's-
that's the
black.
Italian. That's the
Italian.
Italian flag.
Oh, making you try to. Okay.
Yeah, they do it in black, but the black's like a flat black.
It
so,
speaks
yeah.
third best Italian.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So when I, looking at that kind of thing and going, oh, right, this is a great bike. It's a great bike. We couldn't sell it.
Yeah.
And-
Tom, you want to whip me up a glass with some ice, and I'm going to have some of that eggnog stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you get on that stat, I'd
We'll
really
get- we'll
appreciate
get you
it.
covered.
That sounds like a thing. That sounds like a thing you need to do.
Is anybody? We're running out of ice. I'm gonna have to go back upstairs if anybody else wants some.
Take your time.
Yep, you're good. You're cool. We can do that.
Take your time,
You can do
stat.
that. Take your time, stat. Oh shit! But at that price,
I'm sorry, I don't have the maid outfit on.
At that, you got to do the bunny dip. At that price, at $67.99 on our list. At our list, that is exactly the price of the SCL 500.
Which I kind of like.
500, which I fucking love. Yeah.
They just have to have the high fender kit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. If I've got to go ahead and if I've got to sell somebody a Leoncino versus an SLC 500, you have got my. I'm trouble. I got trouble right now.
Right here in River City.
Yeah. Well, but there it is, right? You know what there are? Boring ass traditional forks. That weird fucking Rebel gas tank.
Yeah.
The fucking it looks like a time trials bicycle helmet.
It
Like
looks
the
like they
digs, like
sold you
little
1/3 of a gas tank. It looks like you only ordered 2/3 of a gas tank by
It
accident.
looks like a shower cap. Like,
It
like
does.
they're fucking like they took their helmet off. They have a little shower cap on or something.
Yeah, exactly.
The green one looks better.
Well, okay.
Everything
sure.
looks better in green,
Yeah.
except for that Honda you showed
The
us
Steve-
earlier.
The Steve McQueen version looks better.
The Steve McQueen version, exactly. If it's green, it's the Steve McQueen version. But yeah, that's there it is for our people at home. They could take a look at it. In my opinion, the SLC 500 versus a Leoncino 500. Fuck, I hate that because the components on the Leoncino are way better.
Yeah. The forks, everything.
Yeah.
This is
You
This
mentioned
is
the
cool.
forks. The forks. That's what Ben at work. He really commented.
I mean-
He's like, "There's no reason why Honda should be using those forks."
You're exactly right. They
Given-
should have got upside downs by now.
given how much the big four, because it all comes down to Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki. Given how much they're watering down their lower end bikes
Yeah.
by going, because this is going to be another Thailand, another Vietnamese, another Chinese, something. Somebody's going to build this for them. Given how much they're watering it down, and given how much the Chinese are overbuilding.
Can you make that bigger? That one off to the right there.
I just did, but I'm
is
waiting
that?
for it to pick up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And-
now that looks a little snappy.
Given how
Paris
much
Dakar
they're
action.
coming up on their level of quality, the Chinese are going to own the market in 5 years.
That's what they hope. Yeah.
Like
for
whether
sure.
they like it or not.
Right. For sure. That's what they want. That's
You know,
their whole plan, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole plan. They want that market. And the Japanese did that in the 60s. So none of that's surprising.
Right. But that's the thing is if you're, okay, this is the SC 500.
This is the SCR 500.
SCR 500.
Or SCL 500, I'm sorry.
Okay. So this is the Honda Scrambler 500.
There's the boner fuel.
So they took the R80GS headlight.
Yeah.
That's the boner fuel.
And then they slapped the snout on it.
Yeah. That's a whole R80GS front end. That look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even with a bark buster.
That's what I said. It's a little Paris Dakar
Yeah.
looking sucker.
So that's like
that.
30
But
bucks worth of shit.
But
Yeah,
that's
that was
still
way
that is
better.
still the rebel frame with that slant and the rebel tank.
Right.
But you put that flat back end on it.
yeah.
But
I mean,
You
look,
know.
white front fender.
Yeah.
They didn't even take the real fender off.
yeah.
Well, that's a
Actually,
BMW thing. That's what the
yeah,
BMW 's.
BMWs have the same thing. My R1150 has the same thing where it's got the lower fender and the upper fender and the schnoz.
Yeah, you gotta have the schnabel with
Yeah.
the grovel.
So if you go through any gravel or anything, hold on, I got to take my lower fender off.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm going to go through some mud. Let me take off the lower fender.
I had said that lower fender needs to be at least 1 to 2 inches off the tire.
No.
Absolutely.
Like it shouldn't
Split
be.
the
It's
difference.
hugging way too tight.
Split the difference.
I think Germany disagrees with you.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
You cannot argue with the Germans.
That does not concern me.
But
Yes.
but
but it is because of efficiency. It is where it's at.
if you draw a line,
People ask the questions.
if you take this image and you draw a line on this image from a rock or a piece of water that is thrown from under the lower fender into the upper fender, how much of the upper fender can you cut off before the upper fender and the lower fender are doing the exact same job? It's about 3 inches.
Well, I mean, the R1150 I have, you literally can do a schnozectomy.
Right.
And it actually looks
Right.
kind of
So if
better.
you could take, and that upper fender, that big white one, that is blocking your headlight from 16 feet of the road in front of your bike.
Yeah.
I know because I've ridden one of those motorcycles recently. It's a big thing. It says Steve McQueen on the side of it. And when you're going down the road, all you can see is your front fender. It's extraordinarily well illuminated.
Yeah, but it's so sexy. It's probably
It's
worth
very sexy. It's very, very sexy. But I also get covered in water. Yeah, so it turns out
it. You got to put one of those rubber schnabels on it. You know, like your bike, like the
Take an inner tube, cut it, put
Yeah.
a little flapper on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The rubber schnabel.
Wrap your schnozzle.
oh, I just need to make my front fender 6 inches longer. Nice. Good out, John.
Did you try
That was
rubbing
epic. Exactly.
Oh, God.
So bad. Yeah, this motorcycle is an interesting looking motorcycle. I'll 100% give him that. But at the same thing, it is a 420. By the way, I'd like to remind all you guys, this weighs 30 pounds more than a Moto Guzzi V7.
I'm not going to clear the room.
That weighs more than a Moto Guzzi V7. The Moto Guzzi V7 is shaft drive.
Really?
Yeah.
The hell they make that thing out of?
Thailand. Yeah.
They melted down Thai prostitutes.
Yeah. When it comes to cost cutting measures,
once you hit 30,
lightness
what do
is
you
not
do?
one of them. Yeah. It turns out when people are building motorcycles, lightness is not a cost cutting measure.
right.
Because heavy metals are less expensive than expensive metals.
Well, I mean, it's literally made of old Honda cars anyway that we've crushed and sent back.
I know that exhaust weighs 30 pounds, 40 pounds more than
absolutely.
it has to. I'm looking at least 2 catalytic converters there.
Yeah,
right? At least 2 catalytic converters. It's the Dohawk.
So those of you at home that feel like stealing one,
As much as it was paining me to
put.
put it back on my TNT 135 because
Right.
it actually runs better with it on it.
Yep.
I could not believe the weight of that. Or my Z900, when I removed that for the Delavic, that 29, 30 pounds worth of fucking catalytic converter came up. It's
a
insane.
factory exhaust. My Ducati Multistrada.
Yeah.
Taking the Multistrada stock exhaust off and putting on just a shorty pipe and a can.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 35 pounds.
Easy. It's
It's
insane.
amazing how much garbage there was on that thing.
Yeah.
Those Moto Guzzi Grizzos, when we do those because there's the big giant Y pipes.
Oh yeah.
Holy shit, there was a ton of weight there. Look at this radiator on this bike. That radiator has a specific density greater than mercury.
Don't take that off your bike.
No, don't take it up, but you can tell that's mass.
It's made out of brass.
Exactly.
Hand hammered.
So like this bike, a 500cc bike, they're saying 419 dry, right? That's not a lightweight bike.
Phil, I'm gonna throw something back out.
Yeah.
Because last week,
Yeah.
we had a customer, or we had a podcast, Patreon, sorry.
Yep.
That was talking about what kind of bike they should buy their significant
They're significant other. Right.
And this is kind of the entire point of this evening
Right.
is what price range, because we're bringing it back around.
Right.
What price range are you looking at? What kind of bikes are you looking at? And what
Everything in this list. What?
You said the L word. We do not do lists.
No, I didn't say
No
top
lists.
10 list.
Okay.
No.
Right.
No,
This
no,
is
we
a
don't do
list,
top tens.
though.
Okay. Don't be scaring me with this. Come on.
We're not like other, we're not like other podcasts.
I thought for a second we'd turn into the Misfits. There's
Yeah,
a
please.
top
You're on
10
the
list. He's on the list from now on.
But this is kind of coming back around to
Right.
the conversation we had before,
Because
which is,
this particular list,
Yeah.
this particular list goes from $39.99,
yeah.
under $350, right? Arguably the cheapest motorcycle you could buy. Yeah. We're not talking about knobbies and shit. Okay.
No, these are
real
honest to God
motorcycles.
motorcycles, not microbikes. Which we all love small motorcycles. Don't get us wrong.
And every one of these bikes is freeway capable,
Yeah.
right? $39.99.
I-10, 70
all
miles
the way
an hour all day
up
long.
to $10,800.
Yeah.
Right?
This kind of covers the gamut of everything we would have talked about.
But we didn't talk about a single thousand,
Yeah.
right? There's no thousands.
Nobody wants to.
yeah.
Nobody should start on 1,000, but that's another conversation we're going to have later.
But I did think, as just kind of coming at it this way, to be aware of the market, the Chinese influence in the market right now is strong. It's really strong. And they're proud. And it kills me how proud they are that they're coming out and their pricing is just like, yeah, I know the Honda's only 200 more, but fuck you. Right? I know the Honda's, but you haven't seen how good I am yet.
And that's
right? Because when you look at the Honda, Sleepy says those forks look like shit. Tom goes, that frame looks like shit. Fresh goes, that swing arm looks like shit. Right? That exhaust looks like shit. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Honda's definitely playing down to a price point. And China's going, yeah, we're China. Look at what a great set of suspension we can build when labor costs you $1.18 an hour.
Well, check this out. Besides even the lower end bikes, so I don't know any validity to this. I just know what I've seen in pictures and stuff. But so like my Africa Twin and all the ones built up into 2021, I think, when they ever had the third generation of Africa Twins kind of hit, right?
Okay.
Like the adventure sports and stuff.
All right.
They started showing, all these dudes started being like, I had the Generation 1 Africa Twin. It was the greatest bike I've ever owned.
Really?
Now it's the third one, and they're showing the welds up by the neck, and they're fucking horrible.
Oh,
like the
quality sag.
Quality has gone like
quality
way
sag
down. Like the guys are getting brand new bikes that have already rusted and coming through the paint from being rusted and stuff like that.
That's the big question. Because to go back even further to what you've been talking about, those Vespas you saw being manufactured, assembled in Italy.
Right.
Which market do you think those went to?
I have no idea.
Because those weren't coming here. Those were probably what market?
We have no way to tell. I mean,
that's not necessarily true. But the question becomes: do they send them? What level did they send them? Because the EU all has the euros all about the same for every market.
Yeah.
Did they send them to Germany? Did they?
Well,
send
Tom,
them to
what do you
Swiss?
think? Where do you think?
I don't know. That's the question. Is what level? Because the trick with is it value added? I believe. There's a term for when you export something from your country, and most of what they're going to manufacture in Italy is either going to go to a domestic market or get exported somewhere where they make a profit on it. This is the same with the ROROs, roll-on, roll-off car things, because we were talking about...
I think there's only three markets. I think there's China, I think there's Europe, and I think there's NAFTA. So I think there's China, there's NAFTA, and there's... I think there's China, there's NAFTA, and there's
obviously they were manufacturing them for somewhere where they're going to make a profit. Now,
they all make a look, I'm going to tell you something right now. Here you go. Your dealer, because your dealer makes 12% profit, we did the math today. The dealer makes 12% profit. Everybody else in the chain makes way more money than the dealer.
Oh, yeah.
So... doesn't matter if it leaves the factory, it's making them money. Done. Otherwise, they wouldn't fucking do it.
I'm just interested in what did the factory sell it for versus what it retailed for? Because when you were talking about the Sportster, I'm thinking, well, if it's a $10,000 Sportster, that means somehow these are being built for $3,500, and people all along the way are making all that money.
I can answer that. So one of our manufacturers let go some information that they shouldn't let go of. We have in our country a tariff on certain vehicles. And the tariff is a 10% tariff. And one of our manufacturers on our invoicing, when they invoiced us for the bike. And the bike cost me $2,100. Okay. So the bike cost me $2,100. And they invoiced me $80 for a tariff. Yeah. Now, I know by law it's a 10% tariff. So I know that my distributor...
I'm going to have to get my calculator out to figure this out.
So my distributor charged me the tariff that they paid. They passed that tariff along to me, which means they paid a tariff on $800. So the bike that they sold me for $2,100 that I'm supposed to sell you for $2,799.
And this is the whole thing about China that boggles the mind. Like, you're buying crap on the internet, and it's $10.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did you build a
mini? It got it here.
How did you
got
build
it here
it
for
and
$10?
got it here for $10?
Yeah.
It's a mini drone.
Yeah.
It's like, like stupid stuff. You're like, it just doesn't, just defies logic.
John, you talked about the containers. How it's not worth $1,200 to ship them back. That's the exact point. Is for $1,200 you can ship this container back. Empty.
No, it's 4,200 right now. So for a 40-footer to go from anywhere in the United States to anywhere in China, the going rate that I got quoted like 2 days ago was $2,314 for a 20-footer and about $3,800 for a 40-footer.
And you can always sell a container to a prepper or a hippie.
Right.
For
And
at
containers
least
are selling.
$2,000.
Well, containers are selling right now at the guy who sells one-trip containers.
Yeah.
They're selling for about $4,000. So he's selling one trip, no delivery, just one-trip containers because it's better for him to sell them at $4,000 here than it is to ship them back to China for $4,300.
What's Grumpy Sewer Guy paying for him? And his,
I think he paid. What did he pay about?
Trailer farm.
$4,000 a piece for
Oh,
those.
he was getting like $2,000, $2,500
There was
for the 40 footers. And
There was,
the 20 footers were cheap.
Oh,
Well, that
no.
was not now.
No.
Well,
Yeah. Well,
In-
sorry. We've had 26 years of inflation in the past year.
Yeah.
If anyone would like to see the data, I have it.
This is true.
It's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, you're right about the Chinese manufacturing. When that manufacturer let on to me, when he passed through an $80 charge, he was telling me that he pays $800 for that bike.
Yeah.
and that's
Now-
just silly.
Now, here's the
Well-
problem. He didn't open the crate. He didn't find the customer.
And that's what he did. So that means they built it for like $400 or $500.
We joked early on, Phil. How much does
well, there's no labor.
a Bajaj Cheetah cost in India?
Watch the video that I got sued for. 2 of them. Whereas my public service announcements, how many years ago, Sleepy? 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That I published a couple of public service announcements for some wildfire scooters.
Oh, yeah.
And we had talked to the manufacturer. My cost, if I wanted to buy 240 of these things, 244 of them, my cost was $219 per bike.
Yep.
If I wanted drum brakes and a 125cc motor, that's my cost. How much does it cost the factory to build them if they're selling them to me for $212 15 years ago, right? And back then, the MSRP was along the lines of $21.99.
I was gonna say I think we were doing Red Streak 150s for about that. So
Yeah.
yeah. And we were paying 9 to 12.
Yeah. Cost to the manufacturer, me in the United States, quoted, we were joking about doing the Caveat Emptor. The Caveat Emptor, we were going to do a Caveat Emptor 50 and a Caveat Emptor 125. And the Caveat Emptor 125 was going to be $19.99, and the Caveat Emptor 50 was going to be $9.99. And we were going to make $700 on one and $1,800 on the other. Sue us. You bought a vehicle that was called the Caveat Emptor.
Idiot.
Good luck, asshole. Right?
the
We
funny-
told you it was a fucking mess.
The
right?
funny part is I could probably make it. I know the 50 I could get 3,500 miles out of because that's when the belt breaks and the Changshen wears out.
Which, I mean, even look at the good bikes that are sold, like that might never hit those miles.
Well,
with
a
most people.
$600 Coleman must only cost
Oh, that's $100 bike.
$50.
Yeah.
to build.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, those things. The Linhai motor in the thing costs about $25.
I mean,
Which they're back up to. I sent you guys a picture. I walked over to trailer.
the sales are over.
The sales are over.
$7.99, man.
Yeah.
So why didn't you include the Royal Enfield Himalayan with the ADV bikes on?
Because
Because
the pricing on the Himalaya. So when we looked at I will not include, and this is the problem. I will not include the Himalaya 400 or 441
450.
in with the Adventure 500s because I've ridden them and they are not comparable. Despite the number on the side of the bike being 441.
I rode one at Vintage
Yep.
Days this summer, and
Yep.
I wanted to hate it, mostly because they made us wait forever in the sun to ride them. But I couldn't hate that bike. There was nothing wrong with it.
And to me, my experience was riding one that had 500 miles on it, taking it out for a ride. It gave you all the performance and all the handling and all the perfect behavior of a 250 or 300. But it didn't give you the behavior of a 440. It would get its ass kicked by a Versys 300 8 ways from Sunday.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't argue that.
It was not a proper 441. right?
But there was nothing else. Otherwise, the bike looked well put together,
and I would have put it
really well.
And I would have put the Himalaya. I would have put the Himalaya 441 in the vintage retro, right? Or would I have put it in the entry level street sport, right? Because that's where its power is.
That's kind of a vintage like that. I would comp it with an R80 GS-ish ST.
If I said, okay, Sleepy, you're going to be on the Triumph Speed 4. And Tom is going to be on the Royal Enfield Himalaya 441.
Sweet.
Right? Okay. You're giving up 41 cc's, 10% of the cc's to him.
Happily.
Right. But he's going to smoke you. Right? And even if we flipped it around and said that Meckelfresh has now entered the race on the Honda Rebel 300, right? And that Kromke shows up on a CBR 300R. The Royal Enfield 441 is still coming in dead last place, unless a Royal Enfield Hunter 350 shows up. In which case, now we need to have a Virago 250 in there to give either of those 350s or 441s a chance. And I will stand on that because I've ridden all of them. The 441 is an improvement over the 400, but the 400 was despicable how slow it was. We beat a Royal Enfield Himalaya 400 with a Buddy 125, and we beat it handily. Handily.
That's kind of an unfair competition because the Buddy 125 will smoke pretty much anything you put it up against.
Yeah, whatever. No, that's not true at all. But a Buddy 125 is a decent 125cc scooter, and the Royal Enfield 400, both of us giving it all she had, Captain. The Buddy 125 achieved 60 miles an hour before the Royal Enfield 400 did. Thank God they came out with the 441. Because the 441, somehow magically, out of only 41 cc's, is at least 40% more powerful. For 10% more motor, they found an extra 30 or 40% horsepower, which means now it's as fast as a SYM Fiddle 200. But it's still a 441. And we took the 441 out and we tested it, and we tested it against the G400C. And the G400C did a wheelie in first and a wheelie in second and was already at well over 60 miles an hour. And we were like, we think the Royal Enfield may have skipped a gear, right? And we reshot that drag race over and over and over and over and over again, that a Chinese-built single was beating a Royal Enfield 441. But it did. It beat it constantly. Now, look, that Chinese single Shine Ray is a 4-valve motor with RVP, like radio valve technology, like the old GB500 and Honda XR350s and everything else. That's a very happy 400cc motor. The Royal Enfield 441 is pleasing all governments and would run on something just slightly spicier than diesel. And I think would give you the ability, flywheel authority, to pull a family of 5.
Yes.
But I don't think it has anything in the way of power. Yeah, if I would have put the Royal Enfield in here, I would have put it in, I guess, I don't know. I couldn't have put it in the Adventure 500s, though.
No.
Yeah. Because if you're on a TRK 500, which I've had that motorcycle at well over 100 miles an hour, I couldn't get the Royal Enfield 441 to crack 80. 80. And I was trying.
You've made me, Phil, with the talk about the V-Strom 250, you've made me very nostalgic, and now I'm looking up the Kimco V-Nox.
Oh, God. We almost got that bike to 90 miles an hour.
I know.
Almost.
I know.
That thing was fast. That was 10,000 RPM.
The looks were literally what let it down, but the motor was amazing.
Liquid-cooled V-twin.
Oh, yeah.
That would spin to easily 12,000 RPM.
It was a monster. And the look of the bike.
But it looked like it was a Honda Magna leftover.
Yeah.
It looked like ass.
Did they sell it as the Magna 250 in a couple of markets?
I think they did.
Not?
I think they did.
Because that might be what happened.
I think it was a Magna 250 in a couple of markets.
And it's because I'm literally looking at it, they're like $1,800 is the average on Marketplace, and I'm like, that's a bike I really kind of regret not buying when it was around.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah.
Unlike the Hyosung 250, which I'm very familiar with replacing the motor in.
They said, I did find this. A Royal Enfield Himalayan 450 will supposedly hit 94 miles an hour. Supposedly.
Downhill?
I will not.
Off a cliff.
I will not, under any circumstances. I also see 87 miles an hour. There are other.
If it chugs along at 70 miles an hour, you're good for
According to Rider Magazine, top speed was 75 miles an hour. That I believe. Cycle World Magazine says 3,500 miles on a Royal Enfield. They got 79 miles an hour top speed. I believe that.
It's the bike you absolutely positively want if you ever want to do a tour of India.
Exactly. I think that it does what it's designed to do perfectly well.
Yeah.
But slabbing it on American highways is not what it's meant to do.
This is the problem we have with the Cheetah and the Legend. Was did not, as soon as you put them on American roads,
they would blow up.
They were like, no, we're not.
And same with the Royal Enfield 500 singles. As soon as you put them on the freeway, they blow up. Yeah, not great. The Royal
Enfield makes me glad that I didn't buy a Mahindra truck.
Well, yeah, it's all the same shit. Like if you use it in the environment where it was designed, it's going to be absolutely just fine. It's going to be great, right? But the 452 or whatever you want, 441, whatever you want to call it, it was not performing at the standard that I think we could compare it with other 500s. Yeah.
This is again because the Chinese now are making the push for the American market. And when are the Indians going to do the same? That's the next step.
Well, so I've seen the Royal Enfield Himalaya being called a 441.
Yeah.
I've heard it called a 450.
Yeah.
And the CCs is 411.
Yeah.
So if your CCs are 411, why call it a 441 or call it a 450?
It sounds more better.
Well, this is like every motorcycle that's ever been was a 398 cc and has been
Oh, the 327 was the 350. I get it. I totally get it. But Royal Enfield went from a 400 cc bike to a 450 in some markets, and all they added was 11 cc's. Right. Yeah, but they really did lean hard on the badging.
And those CCs actually just came from they dropped a screwdriver on the top of the piston and it dented it a little bit.
Well, the Mustang GT has been a 4.9 liter for 35 years.
This is the double head gasket model. This has the secret reserve head gasket.
Right.
This is what we have for
only the top one's cork. It's cool.
We have this for the Asian market to run on lower octane fuels. That's exactly it. It is one of those bikes. I didn't put it in here because honestly, I have an axe to grind against it, and I think that adventure bike needs more power.
Yeah.
I think it needs more power.
Yeah.
And I think it's totally fine to ride it as long as you're not riding with anyone else.
And I'll tell you this, you have the hardcore, probably the guys that sell AMSOIL that will defend the bike and tell you how great it is and all that stuff, right?
For sure.
But I think with the whole crop of bikes that we talked about earlier with these coves and these keyways and all this other shit coming in, that is going to just, now you have a lightweight 350 cc actual power behind that motor, proven bikes.
Yeah.
Who the fuck's going to want that thing? It looks like an elephant fucking sat on it or something.
The Himalaya is one of the least attractive motorcycles I've ever seen in my life.
Right. And not even in a good, BMW made some ugly shit, but in such a vigilant way that it was awesome. They
owned it.
Yeah.
They just fucking owned it. The Himalaya itself, God, it's got problems. And I'm following so many people that are taking them on crazy things, like riding them around the world and doing this with them, doing that with them. And they will survive it if you are a welder. If you have a welder with you.
Oh, I have
every story.
An onboard welder?
Yeah.
Every story.
The first prototype test I saw of the Himalaya was them cracking the frame right at the down tube.
Yes.
And there are pictures. It's out there. It's not. This is not something I'm making up. There literally is the first one in India with the whole front end raked out,
completely broken off. And
this is honestly a bike I wanted to like.
Right, because $5,000 is a sore dick deal.
I have hated Royal Enfield for a long time because I've had to work on them.
Yeah.
I wanted to like this bike.
It's a $5,000 bike.
Yeah,
and it's a $5,000 adventure bike.
And it's it looks. If I were in India and I were doing the India tour,
right? This would be the one I would want. Absolutely.
I just want to know the first bike to come out with 3 front fenders is going to be the shit. It's an extra one, sitting up on top.
But no, Sleepy. This has 3 front fenders, and on the Enfield, the schnabel and the fender are the same exact size.
Yeah. So at that point, you'd have to have an under the headlight fender.
Right.
Now
that would make it extra adventure.
Now, coming from my end, since you were talking about the Himalaya being in the, we're going to exclude that.
Right.
The KLR is now fuel injected.
That's true.
And it is in this price
It
range.
is. Yeah.
And it has not changed since 1986.
Yeah, that's true. God, I hate to admit it, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Yep.
I loved mine. It just wasn't enough.
I just am. Oh God, I can't get over how fucking ugly this bike is, and it's unapologetically ugly, and it just tries. It tries so hard to be like, no, this is real. This is serious. This is good for people who don't. This is good for people who want to leave India, right? If you want to be outside of India, this is a great bike for you. And I'm like, I don't think so. This is 439 pounds. This is not torquey. This is man. I don't, and it's got really great gauges. The one I rode, the dashboard looked great, and only 3 things were burned out, and the bike was like at 800 miles on it. So I think that was pretty good for a Royal Enfield. It's not Jesus Christ, he's loud. Holy shit!
Bring his gain up.
All right, you ready?
Oh yeah.
So tonight on the way home, Smith decides to give Dan and Tom a ride. So Smith, Dan, and Tom, they're driving home tonight.
Oh Lord.
Out of nowhere, semi comes, bam, smashes the car. They're all dead. They go up, and they're up to the place where the pearly gates are, and goes through, and he's like, yeah, you guys, none of you have really been that bad. We just got a few things to check up. You're pretty much all guaranteed in heaven, so let's just find out what you're going to be driving. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, depending on how you were with your wife depends on what car you're going to get. So let me see here. Smith, you cheated on your wife 15 times over 35 years. That's not that bad. We're going to give you a Toyota Camry. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
That's sensible.
Gets to Dan. He's like, Dan, yeah, only 5 times over 50 years. That's not too bad. What do you want? How about an Explorer? You look like an SUV. No, you're a Subaru guy. We'll give you the car you had on Earth because, hey, you're a nice guy. Dan's happy as a clam.
Okay.
So they get to Tom, and there's Tom. Wow, sir. You didn't cheat on your girlfriend. Well, you didn't cheat on anybody. Congratulations. You can pick whatever you want. So all 3 guys go off. So they're experiencing heaven for a month, and they get back together to have lunch, and Smith and Dan are happy as clams, even with their mediocre cars. Man, they're like, heaven's great, man. This is the best place I've been in everything.
Mediocre.
Dan's only had to replace the head gasket 6 times.
But Tom looks really fucking depressed, and they're like, Tom, man, you picked this crazy 1960s Ferrari. You get to drive this on the best roads that heaven can provide every fucking day. What's the problem? Well, yeah, I was enjoying that, but my girlfriend showed up the other day. She passed away, and I was kind of really excited, elated to see her. Well, what's the problem then? Well, she showed up driving roller skates.
Yeah, she don't live on skates.
So I got 2 things.
She's a hoe.
1, she was a derby girl.
Yes, she was. You nailed that one.
And 2,
Nailed
have
that
you
one.
met my ex? Because that's about as true
Also
as it's
true.
gonna get.
That is fact. That's not a joke. That's a cautionary
Not a joke,
tale.
That's cautionary tale.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
so a man, his wife and his mother-in-law went on vacation to the Holy Land.
Okay, all right.
While they're there, the mother-in-law passed away.
In the Holy Land.
An undertaker told them, you can have her shipped home for $5,000,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, wow.
or you can have her buried here in the Holy Land for $150. The man thought about it and told him, I'd just as soon have her shipped home.
Oh.
The undertaker said, why? Why would you spend $5,000 to ship your mother-in-law home when you could have a wonderful funeral here in the Holy Land for only $150? Man says, well, a man died here 2,000 years ago, and he was buried here. And 3 days later, he rose from the dead. He said, I just can't take that chance.
All right. So before we roll out of here, I hate to do this. I fucking hate to do this. I hate to make this happen, but because
Well, look at Cinch. Wait a minute. Cinch is enjoying that one.
I liked it. It was good.
fucking Jesus zombie, man. You got to be careful as Jesus zombie around Easter.
Hey, if you don't like my anti-religious rhetoric,
Right.
just go ahead and pray to make it stop.
Pray about it. I'm just going to
Pray to make it better.
Okay, Royal Enfield Himalayan, $5,449. That's right now price. Go to your dealer.
All right.
Okay. weighs 438 pounds. Y'all know what it is. Kawasaki KLR 650, brand new, at your dealer, $68.99. Weighs 456 pounds. So it weighs 18 pounds more
Right.
for a 650 with fuel injection.
And it's proven for hundreds of millions of years.
The military uses them.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
The military uses them.
The only thing that ever fails is the doohickey.
Well, that's been
Thank you, Tom.
It's literally called the doohickey.
We all know that.
We all know that.
If you've listened to this
on
podcast
generation
for
one.
if you've listened to this
No,
podcast for
no,
449 episodes, we talked about that in episode 4.
It carried over. They did not fix that garbage.
Okay. So if a human being was going to spend $5,449 on a Himalayan 400, wouldn't another human being say, hey, for $1,300 more, you can have a KLR 650 that you can legitimately get parts for anywhere, is fuel injected, has all the deliciousness, a 6-gallon gas tank, and can go 2 up anywhere around this planet.
Oh, yeah.
And has an arsenal of accessories already built for it. I got to say, that's the smartest $1,200 in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have worked on Royal Enfields. Finding Royal Enfield parts in the United States of America is like finding rocking horse shit. Like if you're broken out of the side of the road on a Royal Enfield North America, you will be there for a while.
I am convinced that in South America there is a KLR 650 graveyard, but most of them are just to have dead batteries.
But also, if you bought a brand new one, it's never going to break.
No. Well,
it's never,
one piece will.
ever going to break. It's never going to break.
well-
Tom likes to say doohickey like he knows what he's fucking talking about.
I've only
But
replaced
here's the little thing
20
I'm
of
going
them.
to tell you about doohickeys. You replaced 19 that didn't need to be replaced.
Okay.
Okay.
I had one broken.
Well, let me put it this way. Dan,
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on, Tom.
Yeah.
How many broken doohickeys did you replace?
It's usually the spring that breaks, actually.
Fuck you, Tom. How many broken doohickeys did you replace?
One, and I had one fail on me.
And how many doohickeys did you replace
It's prior to failure,
prophylactically?
about 25.
Okay, so you replaced 25, 24 of which did not need to be replaced.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kawasaki sees that as a problem that didn't need to be addressed. Because I'm the only person sitting here at this table with a KLR 650 that had over 90,000 miles on it on the original fucking doohickey.
Oh.
So Kawasaki might have been right about the doohickey, and we as Kawasaki KLR 650 owners may have found a part that they made in plastic that somebody else could machine out of aluminium, sell us, and tell us that it needs to be replaced, and will guarantee us a lifetime of enjoyment of our KLR 650 without a doohickey failure. Are they wrong? They're not wrong. Your doohickey will not fail if you replace the plastic one with an aluminum one. But here's the fucking crazy thing I'm going to tell you. You didn't need to replace your plastic one because only a very small handful of plastic ones actually failed. But the few that did fail, when somebody said the solution is just making it out of aluminum and we can do that and here's a kit to do it, Tom replaced 24 doohickeys that did not need to be replaced. But he replaced one that actually broke. But here's the problem. When it does break, it fucks you all up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? It turns a $300 job into a $900 job.
I hosed an entire motor.
I am going to
it was
assure
my
you,
motor. I was mad about it.
I had no idea that the bike I was riding for all those years
Yeah.
didn't have the doohickey replaced. And when I sold the bike to the guy, I'd said, well, of course the doohickey's been replaced. It's got 86,000 miles on it. And he opened up and found out it had the factory goddamn plastic doohickey in it. It's a timing cam chain advancer.
It is.
That's all it is.
Tensioner.
Yeah, right.
It's
Tensioner.
ti-
Exactly.
timing-
Thank you.
yeah.
Timing cam
Because
chain tensioner.
When mine let
Right.
go, and I
Yeah.
was mad. I was
Yeah.
so mad.
Right.
Because I was I literally did not make it home from the shop.
And how many miles do you have on that bike when it went?
That one I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I think
usually
about,
around 39,000 miles.
I think mine only had 13.
Oh, that's really low. Yeah,
Because
that's really low.
I traded the Jawa 353 for the BV 250 and then traded it for a KLR 650 that was a disaster.
I have changed probably 15 or 20 doohickeys
Yeah.
in KLR 650s. I have never laid my hands on one that actually failed.
I've had two that have failed, one visibly, and I caught it before it failed.
So I'm just of the opinion that Kawasaki hasn't.
It's a prophylactic.
Kawasaki hasn't made that part out of metal over the years because they have determined that they don't need to.
Yeah.
But it's something that we all like changing because we can. And I put it up in there in the category with airbox mods.
Oh god, those are
Right?
stupid.
Airbox mods. Everyone's like, "Hey, did you do the airbox mod on your KLR 650?" No, I didn't do it. Oh, you really should. It's great. It's really going to make your bike a lot better. And then I did the airbox mod, and I changed the main jet, and I changed the needle, and I'm like, wow, it really does. It really did. It woke that bike up a little bit. That's faster now. It's great. It didn't change my overall lifespan experience of the motorcycle.
The 5-cent
made it a
mod is the
little
only
bit
thing you
better.
ever have to do. One washer and you're good.
Yeah. I am going to absolutely tell you that I've never had a KLR 650 I've regretted, ever.
Oh no.
And the military backs me up because the Department of Defense had a contest and they could have chosen any motorcycle they wanted, and they chose the KLR 650 twice.
Did you see there's another diesel one on for sale in the area?
Yeah.
I forwarded you guys that list.
Yeah.
Guy wants a lot of cheese for that.
Yeah, he does want a little bit of cheese for that bike, doesn't he?
I got one better because I didn't share this with the group. There is an MT500 for sale with all the Farkles and all of the goodies, and I tagged you on it.
But I think that's
it's
a British
green.
market.
It's the green arm. Well, I don't think it's an Armstrong. I think it's the Harley.
Really?
It's
The one I saw was about...
I tagged you on it because
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh yeah, this is amazing." And they want $16,000 for it.
It's British.
The Armstrong.
It's a British.
Okay.
It's a UK.
Revival
So-
Cycles, I think.
Yeah, it's British.
British.
So that bike was not for the U.S. market. and
the
that
one
bike
that
is
I'm
not
talking- the
that. The
diesel
MT
one?
that he's talking about has never been a Harley.
It's the Armstrong MT500.
The bike he's got is a 93 or 92 or something.
Something like
It's
that.
too early. It's never been a Harley. It was before Harley bought him to try to get the contract. It's basically just an English Army motorcycle.
It's Armstrong 500 with all the stuff.
MT500
But you keep
Armstrong.
you're like, well, I have to find the rifle holder,
The scabbard.
and the thing.
That bike doesn't have it. In fact, that bike didn't have any of the cool shit on it. I just want all the big plastic boxes and the rifle scabbard and all that shit because that's the only thing I don't have for mine. And if they give me a 3D printer big enough, I'll fucking print them. Yeah.
Plus, you could bring home like a 3-foot long sub.
Exactly. Yeah. Those boxes are ridiculous. Yeah. They're it's just the dumbest looking thing. I mean, that's like there are a few motorcycles in the world that looked so obviously for the military, like it was clearly a military motorcycle.
And I'm sure the odd, weird scabbards and boxes and stuff didn't hamper rideability at all.
No, probably not at all, Sleepy. It was probably just fine. It probably
Especially through like wood covered areas and like in the woods.
Right.
With like branches.
It didn't make the bike handle like shit and be awkward and weird.
with your Subway foot long sub.
Right. Yeah, it was terrible. And the favorite thing was they designed it for a rifle, a military rifle that we never ended up using. But at the time,
A rifle
they were
or a
like,
carbine?
it was actually for a bullpup. Yeah. So it was for a bullpup that we never ended up using. Our military never ended up using the goddamn thing, which I think is even funnier. That it's like, this is the future. We're getting there before everyone else is. We know what's going to happen. And we were wrong about everything. Had they thought that we were still going to be using the machine gun by Mattel that we were using in Vietnam and not moving on to like the Steyr AUG bullpup shit that this bike was designed to actually carry, it's kind of fucking beautifully and, a fail point of truly U.S. military proportions because nobody realizes that mil-spec doesn't mean it's really good. Mil-spec means lowest bidder. Right? I promise you that. Anytime somebody's like, oh, well, this is really good. These are good because they're mil-spec. And I'm like, no.
What was it again? This is the M16. Don't get it wet.
Well, among other things, but like that whole idea that mil-spec was going to be somehow better than anything else. I'm like, no, it just means that somebody was willing to fucking fake it out on a contract to make 10 million of them. And I think that for those people that have been in the service that know, like, if somebody hands you a shovel and they're like, this is your shovel built for you by the taxpayer, try to dig a hole with it. You're going to curse that son of a bitch after about 30 minutes. It's the worst shovel you've ever handled. And then they want it clean and polished and everything else for your next inspection. Like, why would I clean it and polish it? It's a piece of shit.
Right.
It's the worst shovel. You want a good shovel? Go find the guy who's literally getting paid $40 an hour to dig out the footer around your house. He's got a good shovel.
Dude.
Like a general contractor probably has a great fucking
Better
shovel.
than that, I was at Ryan's shop today. I was dropping.
Oh, you were?
I was dropping some parts off to him, right? And he has this thing, and I saw it, and it was a tool that, like, if you've ever worked on cars or anything, you see this tool, and you're like, holy fuck, that exists. And maybe I'm just the only guy who didn't know it, but he said he had this. Quite a few people do this. It's a fucking tool. It's a pair of pliers with a giant fucking schnozzle that goes like this in a cup, and it's made for the muffler bearings.
Yes.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
He's like, and I'm like, oh. But like when you look at that tool, an engineer did not build that tool.
No, a mechanic built that tool.
Yeah, exactly.
3 tools had to die for that tool to live.
And every other dude that has, like me, I had never saw it. You walk in, you're like, oh.
You mean the rubber van stretcher?
No, it's the one. So like, you know, the knob that the barbed knob.
Yeah.
And then your muffler, the rubber muffler bearing.
Yeah.
It pulls it. So it goes like this and pulls it.
It pulls it right through the hole.
Dude, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
But again, 3 tools had to die.
Yeah.
So the one mechanic in West Virginia who went, we can make that happen.
Yeah.
And they did. And they welded it.
It's
and
so
it
good.
happened.
But I'm just saying, like a good tool like that, no engineer makes them. It's a fucking dude.
It's a dude who's
And
done
you
that
know
job.
it's a good idea.
But you gotta meet the Mac tool guy too. He'll drive up in his truck and he's got that unit.
I'm sure he does, but his is probably a lot more
There it
money.
is.
There you go.
Is that the one?
So this is the one that was sold at dealerships. So this is the one that they sold 500 of these to the American.
Oh my God.
I mean, 1,200.
Don't let the hipsters get a hold. You know what that thing looks like?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it holds one of those dollar shooters. Like, you know, like all the rap video dudes have like the dollars. Like,
You lost me.
No, have you never seen the dollar shooters?
Oh, the lap
When
dance
you're at the
gun.
strip? Yeah,
lap dance
it
cannon.
looks
All right.
like the scabbard is for lap dance gun.
Oh, okay. I get that now.
It still baffles me that bike was ever made. Like, I know Armstrong did it for years,
Right.
but looking
Yeah.
at it, you're like, what?
You know what? I have to tell you that having been around military equipment, it's a Rotex 500.
Yep.
It's a little heavier than it needs to be.
Because it's a
the gas
Rotex
tank is made of
500,
metal.
Yeah.
Right? Honestly, it's a good motor. It's a bricked out motorcycle.
Well, it's a Rotex 500.
But
They put that motor in everything.
and they made it a 350 as well.
Right.
But our special forces in America, what our guys were doing to make things more interesting is they were just buying off the shelf XR 350s, and they were buying off the shelf Kawasaki KLR 250s.
The KLR 250 exists
Painting
for a
them
reason.
green.
Yep.
and sending them out.
Yeah.
And special forces guys were like, yeah, it works. There's a whole part of the military that is shit that is off the shelf, civilian use crap, that our military goes, I need one of those. And that's why if you look at today's special forces and everything else, there's a lot of Polaris side-by-sides. There's a lot of Bombardier weird shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ATVs that exist in the military that didn't exist prior to Gulf War I, a.k.a. Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Because they were just like, we need a little vehicle to just go over there.
Well, the FAV is nothing but like a Volkswagen Dune buggy.
That's a Chenoweth.
Chenoweth.
So the Chenoweth, the first time I was in a Chenoweth, I was just like, oh, shit. This is literally the sandrail of my dreams when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
But it's got this V6 back there with like 300 fucking horsepower. And it's just got guns everywhere. And you're like, what's the armor? The guy in front of you.
Yeah.
The guy next to you.
Yeah. Duck.
And what is it? It's basically just all pointy out bits.
Yeah.
Right? And how do you not get hit? Go fast. Be where the bullets aren't.
Yep.
And the first time I got to ride in one of those, I was like, this is too much fun. We shouldn't be allowed to have this. Everything
you forget you're warring.
Yes.
You're like,
dude.
We're in the middle of the desert in the ultimate sand rail, and you're telling me I got a duck?
It is. And like, I'm going to tell you, the Cav Scouts and the people that had those fucking things.
Dude, I can imagine the ending, like the sun's going down, two dudes, you're driving in this fucking thing, and it's the edge of the thing. You're like, if we hit it, we're definitely going to get shot. We can turn off. But he's like, but we have to. And they fucking clear the top, just end in a blaze of glory going out.
It was Megaforce. It was the movie Megaforce. The first time I saw Chenoweth, I lost my shit.
Rat
because
Patrol.
yeah, it was Rat Patrol exactly, but it was
yeah.
Rat Patrol at 80 miles an hour, right? the fucking thing was we're sitting out there in the sand in a goddamn tank, which is just a fortress, right? A tank is a tank. And these dudes roll up in a Chenoweth, and I am straight up just like, dude, who gave you the dune buggy? What MOS did I not have to have to get a dune buggy? This is the coolest thing ever. And they were like, yeah, but we don't have any AC. And I was like, do you think that motherfucking M1A1 has AC? It doesn't have any AC. Where the ammo is nice and cool. But unless we're in an NBC environment, I don't have anything to help me out. It's 140 degrees inside that sumbitch.
In a hail of fire, you'd hear tink, tink in there.
Yeah.
And those guys would be like, ugh.
Oh, wait. No, you know what they're doing? Assholes and elbows. They're skittering across the desert like a fucking scalded cat. It is impossible to hit what you cannot fucking see or track. These dudes were fucking seriously, they were Baja 1000 racers. That's what they were. And they were being paid $4.38 an hour by Uncle Sam to do it in a foreign country. They were living their best lives. Now, there is no SPF in the world that works for what they have to do, which is look, we've been to band camp. We've been to Mid-Ohio. Yep. Hang on to a side-by-side that's going 80 in the sand and now have an M19 grenade launcher or an M240 machine gun and be responsible for covering an area of fire. Take a dune buggy that was designed to hold 2 people and put 4 of your buddies on, 4 dudes, and now fill it full of MREs and diesel, right? Or gas. These things were pig loaded, overloaded and shit, but they were scooting across. They were fast as fuck. And a Humvee, everybody's like, oh, give me a Humvee. Humvees suck dick. Humvee is terrible. A Humvee is a Lego vehicle with 1/4 the horsepower it actually needs. And 1/3 of the suspension. And that's before they were up armored.
Dude, and you can even get worse. So like back when I worked at that recording studio, my rich guy boss, because like we worked with some hip hop acts and stuff, so he wanted to be down with them too.
Sure.
So he bought a Hummer version 1. With a gasoline engine.
Oh, God.
You want to talk about...
No.
That thing would do 61 miles an hour, maybe.
The diesel would go 54.
Oh, my God.
So the diesel that was in our Hummers, our first Humvees that we had, was pre-turbo diesels. Yeah. They were slower than molasses on a cold morning.
Wow, because that thing...
And they didn't like to start.
No, and like on the highway, just because we would take that when I had Rider for Life, we would use that to pull the Rider for Life.
The gas
trailer.
ones were much faster.
It's still terrible. It would overheat. Just going to
Constantly.
Mid-Ohio, it overheated like 17 times just getting to Mid-Ohio.
Try pushing a 4x8 sheet of plywood with a Vespa 50.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what a Humvee is.
You've just described my Honda Element.
It is so not, it is the worst. We had these when I joined up. I'm old. So when we joined up, we had leftover Vietnam Jeeps and 151s.
Do you have the mutts?
4-cylinder mutts. And we were just like, someday we're going to get a Humvee. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. And we were like taping perspex together to make windows and all kinds of shit. And like using these in a German environment where it's cold as shit. And my buddy was a Jeep driver for the major and stuff. We were best friends. And I drive a lot in the Jeeps. We take them downtown and have a good time. A 151 Jeep is a fucking go-kart compared to a Humvee. Mm-hmm. A Humvee is not awesome. And an up-armored Humvee is like, cannot get out of its own goddamn way. It is not the right vehicle for the job. In the desert, those dudes on the Chenoweths, the guys with the sand rails, that shit was where it was at. Yeah. That was the shit. Those guys were actually having a good time. They could scoot, move, and communicate. In a tank, we were just a bump. We were just a bump. We were just out there and we were like, oh, there's another tank. And there were so many of us. It was ridiculous. If you look at the way the Army handles shit, what happened in Kuwait, what happened in Saudi Arabia, is no different than what happened in Ukraine. We threw the force and power of the United States military into Kuwait, and we did nothing for Ukraine. And it still pisses me off to no end that what happened in Kuwait and the way that we approached the response to Kuwait is completely disproportionate to the way we responded to Ukraine.
Well, it all comes down to our opponent.
Right.
We're not worried about Saddam Hussein nuking us.
Exactly.
We're not worried about escalation. We could take it. Go ahead. Let's escalate this as far as we can.
Right.
But I also think that there is room for escalation. I think everybody's holding back.
Right.
Russia's playing its hand very smartly, but there's not much they could do if we decided to enter this thing.
Yeah, when I see the folks, the poor sons of bitches that are going into their goddamn third year of this shit, when I feel like, wow, pretty early on in the game, we could have shut down the airspace, and this is as a former military person that's been in a few different deployments.
Let's have it be an international no-fly zone.
Right. We're just I'll tell you what we're gonna do day one. Let's level the playing field just a little. Let's just level the playing field just a little bit. We know that Ukraine has no nuclear weapons whatsoever to speak
Now,
of.
We
wait.
worked out the whole deal and had them sign to give up their nuclear
This is
weapons.
exactly the
And
point
we
I was
agreed
looking
to
at.
help them.
And why do they not have nuclear weapons? Because
we helped them disarm because it was nuclear
Correct.
non-proliferation.
This was bought, paid for, and signed by Bill frickin' Clinton.
Fuck you.
No, I'm being serious.
All right.
Bill Clinton was responsible for the denuclearization of the Ukraine.
right.
Because
They
he
don't-
signed a contract that said if Russia ever came in, we're in.
Yeah.
We will defend you because you gave up your nukes.
Yeah.
This is legit.
They have no
And-
nuclear threat back
No.
at their Russian adversaries. None
Because
whatsoever.
Ukraine did not want to
They
give up.
cannot wave that stick at the Russians.
They did not want to give up
Yeah.
their nuclear weapons because they were afraid of Russia. And
Right.
Bill Clinton walked in and said, "Look,
well,
I will." I think Sleepy Santa's over.
I know, but have a good night.
Night, Chris.
Rock out. And, that just proves we should never, ever, ever go into anything remotely political in our podcast.
Night.
Ride fast and take chances, everybody. John, play us out.
Bum, 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 bum.
Next week, we're going to discuss the Berlin Wall,
Yes.
the Cuban Missile Crisis,
Hey, you've told me about the
and
Germans.
Kent State University.
Religion.
Wait, religion, that's next month.
Religion is next month.
All right. 20
Bum, 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 bum,